Hey everybody, it's me DigitPlayer, and I decided it was about time that I do a world tour for my about 1.5 long survival world here in Minecraft. A little bit of history: this world was started on December 10th, 2019, so about a little over a year and a half ago. Pretty convenient that it was right at the end of 2019, so you can think about it starting at the beginning of 2020. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure that date was the release date of Minecraft 1.15. So that would mean that this world was created on the first day that 1.15 was released and was made in the 1.15 point nothing release of Minecraft. And the reason for that was because I had just gotten a new computer. I was feeling fresh, and I've had many survival worlds before this, and I decided that it was time to start a new one and try to take this one a little bit farther than I've taken any of the other ones. The name of this world is The World 13 Silk Acres. So for the longest time, for years and years, since I would say maybe around 2014, 2015, when I was but a wee lad, I would always name my worlds The World, because I would always end all of my Minecraft worlds with the word world, like creative world, testing world, redstone world, etc. So since my survival world would be like the big important one, I would just call it The World because I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And right now we're on the 13th generation of this. You can imagine that a lot of these didn't really work all that well. If you told me what was the World 6 like, I would not even know at all. I would say I remember the World 2, the World maybe 11 and 12. However, right now we're on 13, and this is the most progress I've ever made on one of these survival worlds. So as you can imagine, it's pretty dang important to me. If you look at up in the top left, where my mini HUD debug menu is at, you can see that I'm on day 10,351. Don't be fooled. I'm not. A lot of that time has been spent AFKing, but still a fun number to look at. That I've spent that many hours on this world. I know. I'm so cool. But for now, we should do a world tour. Shouldn't we? So, fortunately, I'm kind of, oh no, I'm running out of things to say, but I have a contingency plan. Let me just open up my ender chest, and yes, I have my script. Perfect. Now I won't get lost at all. We're going to follow the script as hard as we possibly can. We are not going to move away from the script at all, because it's going to tell me exactly what to say, totally, and not just where I'm supposed to go. So according to the script, I'm supposed to show you around my home island. You're gonna start to notice some kooky things about this world and what all the shenanigans that I've gotten up to over the past year and a half. And I'll get to that, but first I need to show you where I live. When I first generated this world, I generated over in that direction in the spawn chunks, and I trotted over to this little island between a few rivers and an ocean on either side. And I figured it would be fun to live on a small little island and kind of just put all my home stuff here. So I found that there was this little hill here that dropped off, and I decided to build my house overhanging off of it with some stilts coming on the ground. So this is my house. We'll get to the interior later, but it's made up of 4 cubes. One, 2, 3, 4. And it overhangs over top here where I put a little campfire down there. And a little air sucker. Even though I don't know how I have the technology to do that. Here is a little window into my basement, but we'll show that a little bit later. I'm just gonna say every single little detail. This is gonna take a while. We have a little doorbell, and you're gonna see like lots and lots of 1.17 paraphernalia because it's kind of a brand new update if you consider 2 months to be brand new. So I got pretty excited. I started putting things everywhere. I got myself a doorbell, and your good old classic dragon head opening and closing. And you might be thinking it's a bit of a weird flex to have 6 beacons as these lights leading up to my house. And you might not think that that's all that cool because I probably have access to lots of beacons because of fortress farming and stuff like that. But these are a little special to me because these beacons I got purely by just slaying wither skeletons with my sword. It was not fun. What, 6 times 3? There's 18 skulls. Just not a fun time. For the longest time, there's been like little things like this crafting table and these chests over here. This one is actually labeled Printer Fund because when I was a little bit younger and a while ago and just starting out tinkering with redstone, it had always been my dream to create a printer where you open up a chest and like design something with wool on the inside and then it turns it into real blocks. I don't think that it was very easy to do or possible to do until concrete powder came out. And once it did, I saw that Mumbo Jumbo on YouTube had done something similar, and I thought, no way, it's possible now. And I went ahead and decided to try to design my own version, and I did, and I got super excited. So I figured, so when I made this world, my big end game goal, at the very end of the world, I would know I'd be ready to quit this world once I built that printer. And I did build that printer. Now it's gone now, because it was ugly. But we'll get more on that later. But still to this day, I have this chest labeled Printer Fund. Over here, here's a chest with a bunch of random stuff in it. Don't know what that's all about. You're going to see lots of shulker boxes lying around, and it's kind of torch spammy around here. I apologize for that. Also, you'll notice that it's a little bit framey, and that's because there's lots of entities around here because when I made this world, I wasn't too aware of things that more advanced players would understand. Like how you should try to tone down the amount of entities in one area to keep your MSPT at the lowest it possibly could be. Here we have some fireworks set up because I took some screenshots by setting off these fireworks on the 10,000th day. That's pretty fun. I don't know when I'm going to take these down. Here we have some coal and a melon and a furnace. It's just like one of those things where I put this here as a joke a long time ago, like months ago, maybe over a year ago, and it just... I just didn't want to get rid of it because I thought it was so funny, and now it's still here. Now, most things you're going to see were eventually on the ground because if you didn't notice, we're on the sky. We're in the sky right now. So pretty much everything you see was once on the ground, and then I brought it up, but I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Here we have a chest. I believe this chest was once filled with every single food in Minecraft to do the achievement where you eat all the food. By the way. In case you're wondering about achievements, because now I'm wondering if you're wondering about if I've done all the achievements. For the most part, I have done every achievement, and you'll see there's at least one that I haven't done, and that would be this one. And over the course of the updates, it has glitched out and forgotten that I killed Endermites and Elder Guardians and stuff, and I've had to kill the dragon over and over again because it just keeps forgetting it. So a lot of plans to do big things in the end have gone out the window because I just have to keep resummoning the dragon over there. But I'll tell you my big plans for the end, more towards the end of this VOD. Now, another thing that I can't really explain is this G. I have this dock here and a G. I don't know what the G means or what it stands for, but a long time ago I built this G out of prismarine bricks. And I don't know why I built a G. I was just so compelled to build a G. I then took that G down and I replaced it with a G made out of honeycomb. So then I had a G made out of honeycomb on this dock. And then I took that down. When 1.17 came out, I now have a G made out of copper. And I just let it oxidize here, and I have some lightning rods set up. So every now and then you'll see that some of it's taken off when it thunderstorms around here. For reasons I can't explain, there's lots and lots of thunderstorms in this world. It happens so often. Some people might be jealous of that, because I know that the thunderstorms can be super rare. Here we have a big stack of this. Not really important. In my last world, I made I had this big plan to go out and get every single ore, so I did that. It's just if you're just like starting out in Minecraft and you don't really have much to do and you're just bored and you want to do something, well, a little tiny fun activity that you could do is try to go out with Silk Touch and get every single ore. And I went ahead and did that for all the Deep Slate variants as well. Especially making sure to look out for the coal, the emerald, and the copper, because those Deep Slate variants aren't even going to exist when 1.18 comes out. So I have to make sure I preserve the 1.17 area of land because those are going to have some exclusive ores that aren't going to exist in worlds loaded after 1.18. So that's pretty interesting, or at least that's how people assume it's going to be. A while ago, I built this little pond here, this little circular pond with a palm tree in the middle. Just nice and fancy looking. At one point, it was made out of jungle logs, but once 1.16 came out, everybody kept talking about how ancient debris just works as a perfect trunk, so I went ahead and got 6 of them and put them down, and I've kept it there ever since. We have quite a few crafting tables lying around. Can't really explain that. Down here we have a beacon. Because I was very limited in space with this world, I didn't really know where to put my beacon because they're pretty big structures. Especially when you're putting them in your home, you might want to get a quad beacon like this one, so you could get it pack as many debuffs onto you as possible. But they just take up so much dadgum space. So I decided to put them underground. So I dug this big hole underground. Yeah, big hole. Ginormous hole. And went ahead and put down a beacon. And I made it all fancy. I have a different block for each layer. You might be wondering, where's the netherite blocks? There's none of them yet. And there probably never will be. But I appreciate the concern. If anything, maybe someday I'll move the gold down one layer, and the emerald down one layer, the diamond down one layer, and then we'll have this top layer, this top 4x4 made out of netherite blocks. But that's just like a lot of grinding and a lot of time that I just don't feel like putting into. Of course, this world was made in 1.15, as I said, the Buzzy Bees update, which is probably one of the most impactful updates and one most important updates in all of Minecraft history. I think we can all agree on that. So of course I had to make a big deal out of my bee enclosure. This thing used to be a lot bigger and very laggy, and it seems like my bees are acting funny. They don't really fly around all that much, and they don't really make that much honey either. I'm not sure what really happened to them. Very odd. But I'm not really too worried about honey. Here we have some cats, some jelly cats. I tell you, for that achievement to get all the cats, it took me way too long to find the jelly variant of cats. It was very difficult. I would hop from village to village. Also, this might be a good time. No, this is a horrible time for me to mention this, but I'm just going to say this right away. Coming into this world, I was not in touch with my technical side or redstone-y side at all. And I was intending for this world to be very, very noble and kind of farmy, kind of like somebody who's just started out playing Minecraft and doesn't know a lot about the automatic farming scene, until some friends of mine introduced me to the world of technical Minecraft, and I slowly started to convert my world into a more technical world. It's not Sidecraft or anything, but I definitely have lots of farms and stuff going on. I definitely wouldn't have been able to keep this world running for that long if it wasn't for all of those automatic farms and such. Hence the reason why it's so laggy around here, because I didn't know about that you should keep all these entities away from the spawn chunks and stuff like that. The spawn chunks over there and whatnot to prevent lag. So I'm kind of cursed with the laggy world, and I don't have too much of an idea of how to solve it, because most of these entities I don't want to get rid of, and I definitely can't just move this place somewhere else. So I'm cursed with low frames, but I learned to deal with it. But here's what I'll say. And when you're going into a world, you have to make sure you set some ground rules for yourself so you don't step out of line. So, take a sand, for example. This is a pretty important example. Sand is a non-renewable item, and you can't make an automatic farm of it. Yet it's very important for getting large amounts of TNT or concrete or stuff like that, or just sand. Sand's just very useful because it's a nice gravity block. And it's very common to need sand, and I need sand a lot because I'm always building these islands and stuff. I'll get to that later. But there is technically a method of getting sand where you can use the end portal to duplicate sand blocks, and it is essentially a sand farm. Now, some players may not think that that's the most fair thing to do, whereas a lot of technical players might agree that it's totally fair game. So I'd say that it's totally fine if you don't think that's okay, and it's totally fine if you do think that's okay, as long as when you're going into your world, you tell yourself, yes, I think that it is okay to duplicate sand and gravel in this world, and I will be doing that. Similarly, using chunkbase.com for finding structures, although it may not seem very fair to just hop from like, let's just say ocean monument to ocean monument gathering sponge, but unless you say, in this world I'm going to be using chunkbase to make things easier, you know. So as long as I'd say it's okay to use things that help assist you in getting things done faster. This also applies to client-side mods and stuff like that, like Tweakaroo and MiniHUD and Lightmatica, as long as you go into the world saying that you think you're okay with it. However, if you make a world saying, I'm absolutely not okay with making client-side mods, and then you eventually end up using client-side mods, that's probably not so okay. Now, I didn't really generate this world knowing what any of that was, but then over time I decided client-side mods are okay, chunkbase is okay in moderation, sand duping is okay because it's kind of unreasonable to just gather sand by hand, and I do not feel unfulfilled or like I've cheated at all, although others may not agree that it was the most fair thing for me to do to gather materials this way. But I'm totally okay with it, and it's my world, so I don't care what you think. However, as for client-side mods, I don't use everything all crazy like there's this feature in Muss's Tweakaroo mod, which is called a flexible block placement, which allows you to place blocks offset from the block you're looking at, which is useful for building structures. I say I can't use that all that much unless I'm doing some kind of large-scale redstone project. But otherwise, like, I shouldn't use it to staircase down or staircase up super easily, because that just seems like it's taking it out of line. Also, Lightmatica has a feature called Easy Place, which is exactly what it says. It just allows you to place blocks super easily and without really thinking about it. I'd say that other people might be okay with that, but that might be a little bit too much for me, so I'm going to avoid using that. I think most of that is okay in moderation. Now, what was I saying? Oh yes, the cats. So I brought that up because I used chunkbase to find the villages, and I would just hop from village to village to village, because I told myself I was okay with doing that. And as I would hop from village to village to village, I would just look for their cats and try to find that one last jelly variant, and I couldn't do it until finally I found this guy here. And this is the exact guy that I found in that village. I still have him today. I named him my pride and joy, and I brought him all the way back home, and I bred him up so I can have as many jellies as I want. Fun fact, I actually used to have these cats stored down in a little area right around there where those two creepers and those boats are. You can actually see some cats still down there. And they actually got struck by lightning. So I do have a screenshot with some death messages saying that some of my cats were struck by lightning, and some of them burned to death, and I got freaked out. And I was so lucky that the initial jelly, I wasn't hurt that bad from it, but I'm sure she got burned up a little bit. That covers most of this area. Over here, there's just a few more things to look at on this island. We have this little house. Back in the day, I used to always build my houses like this, and I would just live in a little quaint house like this, where I had maybe a bed here and a crafting table, some chests and stuff like this. This doesn't really cut it nowadays because you might need a little bit of a bigger house than that. But I still try to make an effort to build one just for the good memories in all of these worlds. In my last survival world, I built one of these and I put a diamond door in the very center of it, kind of like that emerald door over there. And I said, once I was done with that world and I had no desire to play on it anymore, then I would mine that diamond door, and that would mean that I was done with the world and I shouldn't continue it any further. So sure enough, when I was done with that world, because eventually I just got bored and lost motivation to do that world, I went ahead and I mined the ore, and I haven't been back since unless to look at it. It's kind of ceremonial, kind of spooky. I decided to do the same with emerald, because I feel like I've always kind of had a special connection to emerald since they added it as an ore, because I just like the color and it's also my birthstone. So I decided to do an emerald ore this time. If I come over here and I mine this emerald ore with an unenchanted iron pickaxe, that's important, then I'm done with this world and I'm not going to continue it anymore, and that means it's time to go on to the world 14. But right now I'm kind of hoping that never happens because I'm way too attached to this world. Over here, I have this little hill which I put my first nether portal on. And once 1.16 came out, I just decorated up with all these trees and nylium and stuff like that. And I think it looks really nice. We have a little pool of lava. There used to be one of my striders chilling here. His name was Flacky. He kind of disappeared. I don't know where he's gone. Rest in peace, Flacky. You guys never met him, but he was, let me tell you, he was a really nice guy. He used to live in a little basalt igloo all the way down there, but not anymore. Alright, now real quick, time to get into the interior of my house. It's kind of chaotic, kind of an organized mess, but pretty much everything here has a little bit of a story behind it. Like, why is there a purple glazed terracotta here? Well, when I started modeling with texture packs and stuff like that, you know, not like I'm really good at it or anything, just messing around, deciding to model. I modeled a little cat in a box, and I decided to make it a glazed terracotta since they're rotatable. And I just had a little cat in a box right here. I lost that model. I don't know. I can't get it back. So now, to this day, there's just this thing here because I just think it's funny. You see lots of candles around. Here we have some signs that are colored. These are the descriptions of my 2 dogs. You gotta have dogs in your world, right? You just gotta. I don't really talk to mine very often, or are you supposed to talk to dogs? I don't really take them around on my adventures. They kind of sit back in my house and just kind of guard the place. But these are my 2 dogs. This is Shaquifa, and this is Sandtrasket. I know you're thinking, well, Sandtrasket, what an interesting name. Yeah, he's named after a rug from IKEA. Probably how I'll name my children in the future. Everything around here is kind of just acts of boredom. Like, why do I still have shulker boxes up here which are labeled and have stuff like that not put into my storage system? I don't know. Why is there a furnace up there? What's this thing? Why do I still have all these furnace walls? So ever since I made my storage system about a year ago or so, or a very long time ago, that's that big treasure chest in the sky. I'll get to that later. I've freed up a lot of space to put some funny things in here. So here we have a nice pair. I always like to make some leather armor and color it some goofy colors and be like, oh, that's my adventuring armor, where I go out and adventure. I never really used it, though. Got 2 dragon heads. Most of the stuff I don't even know why it's here. Here's my boy. I don't really have a name for him. If you have a name for him, let me know, because I don't know what to name him. He doesn't really hurt anybody. He just kind of sits here and does nothing. 2 barrels with nothing in it. One day I got bored and I decided to get every single armor set and enchant it with Prot 4 and nothing else. I got halfway through and then I got bored. Here's a banner. This is a really beautiful banner that I found on Planet Minecraft. And most of the time I try to have that as my cape. But right now I have it as a little sailboat. Kind of neat. But every now and then you'll see me with this as my cape. Now, like I said, sand duplication is generally pretty okay upon. Item duplication as a whole, people aren't really cool with that. But most of the technical community is usually okay with sand duplication and shulker shell duplication pre 1.17. Because now all of a sudden shulker shells are renewable. They were never renewable before, easily. So now, so people generally thought that duplicating shulker shells was okay, because item duplication usually isn't all that easy anyway. So here are my reserves of shulker shells. I'm kind of stuck between throwing all these out and making a shulker farm to make all of my shulker boxes legit. I'll probably end up doing that in the future to clear my conscience, because it doesn't really feel right having all these duplicated things around here. Speaking of duplication, small drip leaves are way too hard to get, so I duped up a few of those just in case I would need them. I know it just sounds like I'm such a cheater, but like, come on. Wandering traders, you can only get like 10 of them at a time. It's already a small chance that wandering traders will show up, but then they actually have to have the trade. And then once you get the small drip leaves, you can only get infinite big drip leaves out of them. So I would say it's fair game to duplicate these small drip leaves until 1.18 comes out, and then there's easier means of getting them. I may not end up actually using them for anything. I just don't really want to have to worry about my very small supply of small drip leaves. A long time ago, I put every now and then when I would mine up a diamond ore, just doing my thing, if I was digging a hole somewhere for a project and I would come across a diamond ore, I would put it on my ceiling. And then eventually I would start putting more diamond ore next to that diamond ore. And then that little cluster kind of grew and became this huge cluster of diamond ore on my ceiling. And then eventually it spread, and then all of a sudden my entire ceiling was covered with diamond ore. And then more diamond ore kept coming in, and then the diamond ore there was so much diamond ore that my house was almost filled solid with diamond ore. I decided on day 10,000 I would mine all of it, and that's all this. I believe this amount of diamond ore would get me to roughly 3.5 stacks of blocks added on to this blocks, or maybe this is 3.5 stacks of blocks on its own, so I would have 6 stacks of blocks. Not sure. It's just that it's kind of a marvel to look at all this diamond ore, so I'm not sure if I'm going to mine it yet. Plus, look at this deep slate ore. Isn't it just such a beautiful ore? I can never mine that. We also have a lot of emerald ore, because I think in early versions of 1.17 there's a bug where emerald ore was generating way more than it should. So I got all of this diamond ore in one mining trip. So that's just funny. Every house has to have an area kind of that looks a little bit like this. All your good old work blocks with your crafting tables and your furnaces, your anvils, and your cauldrons, because you use those so often. Stone cutters, grindstones, brewing stands, water for your brewing stands, chest filled with some mushroom blocks and stuff for some reason, smithing table, and looms. And right here I have a trash can. No, that doesn't just like drop out of the floor and despawn. That goes all the way down into the void. Fun. Alright, I think that's pretty much everything up here. Oh, besides these, we have some chain armor, saddles, coral. I don't really know why I still have this. What does this book say? Bunch of coordinates. That's probably from way, way long ago. Here we have my mob heads. 36 creeper heads right now, 32 skeleton skulls, and 56 zombie heads. Like I said, I get thunderstorms pretty often, so I think this is a lot of these. You know, the kind of something that you want to hold on to. They're pretty rare. And here's my big wall of maps. I would totally recommend building these map arts if you're bored, because honestly they're a whole lot of fun. I would go to mapartcraft.com. I think that's the name of the website. And you could put in an image and it'll convert it into a schematic for you, which makes the whole process super easy. Shout out. So up here, the first map I made was the Suggest Monica map, which is a reference to Doki Doki Literature Club. I actually made that one on my own before I even knew what Litematica was. It's a pretty simple design, so it wasn't really all that hard. I did use like a generator for the OK and for the Just Monica. And the colors are kind of messed up because that gray background should actually be like a milky pink, but Minecraft just doesn't have that color, so it turned out alright. I like it. The next map that I built was... Oh, I don't even know. I think I wanted to make a big deal out of making big map arts, and I just wanted to have an excuse to make a big 2x2. So that's where this is. This is the album Sublime. This is the album cover for 40 Ounces to Freedom by Sublime. It's a 2x2. This was a nightmare to build, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Just kidding. No, it wasn't that bad, but it did take a very, very long time and a lots of resource gathering. And I think it turned out really well. This is the type of album cover that has like just so many details on it that it doesn't work on a 1x1. Like there's like the little devil guy there, and a knife there, and a skull there, and a skeleton there, and it's lots of details packed into this one picture, so I think you kind of need to make it a little bit higher quality in order to get all those details. Here we have a little animation, because you see those all over the internet, so I decided to make one of my own. This is my second most recent map of, if you can't tell, this is actually self-portrait, or not a self-portrait, a portrait of the island that we're on. I'll show you the point that I took that from, but you can see these birch planks right here, because I was on the cactus farm scaffolding right on over there. So you can kind of see that I got into the shot, and I decided to keep it there because I thought it would be funny. And then here we have another album cover, Once upon a time, I had a multiplayer with some friends, and I just like went ham, and me and another friend of mine combined made so many album cover maps, plus some other funny pictures. So album covers for, if I could just name them off the top of my head, Little Deuce Coupe by the Beach Boys, One Hot Minute by Red Hot Chili Peppers, The Mollusk by Ween, Pink Season by Pink Guy. I'm sure that there was definitely more than just that. 2112 by Rush. Those are kind of all the album covers that I really ever want to make. But, you know, maps are just begging to be made into album covers because they're squares. So here's another album cover by Primus. This is First 5 by Primus. So here we have 2 album covers. One animation, one reference, and a screenshot, because I just thought it'd be funny to take a screenshot in Minecraft and then make that image on a map. It turned out really nice. There's one more map that I've made, and I'll show you that when it's time, but you're not going to see that one for a while. It's not that exciting. It's for utility purposes. Well, that looks like everything that we need for the downstairs area. Time for the upstairs. This is where I keep my empty shulker boxes. I've been trying to make an effort into making them all yellow now, so I use yellow shulker boxes. So when I need shulker boxes, I just go to this wall and I mine them up. Once I run out, I just craft some more. I also do most of my brewing up here, and we have some brewing supplies. Stuff in here. Kind of trashy, you know. I don't really care about keeping this area clean. Here we have some maps. My height maps were messed up because I updated to the snapshots of 1.16. But you can kind of see some history of some things that once were there but aren't there anymore. Pretty interesting view. I just tried to make another map wall, but the maps just don't look good because of all the height is messed up. So sad. Alright, time to address the elephant. No, never mind. I have a basement. Sorry. I'm getting ready to talk about how the fact that I'm like 180 blocks in the sky. But I have to show you my basement first. It's way too important. But I know you're dying to want to figure out how I just got way up in the air. Here I am in my basement. Wow, so nice, right? We also have a little side entrance in here. So, once upon a time, I made myself my first enchanting table, and I thought, enchanting tables just they need their own room because of how big they are, because they need all those bookshelves, and so I made it its own room, but I wanted to I didn't want all the bookshelves taking up all that space. So I decided to make this little machine, which just makes them pop in from the floor and the ground, which is why everything is all very oak logish. Not very stylish, I know, but I don't really come down here. There used to be lots of extra storage down here. So you just hit this button on the diorite block for some reason, and it just pulls up. And for some reason, all these are made into slabs. Yeah, I obviously don't allocate that much attention to here, but I have a grindstone and some lapis to do that, and a nice little window because we're just peeking out the side of this cliff, and we get a view of my little campfire and whatnot. And so let me give you a good view before I show you the one last piece of my interior. Obviously, this is a big floating island. I'll get to that in a second. And there's a lot of space down there. You're probably wondering, is it hollow or is it not hollow? Yeah, obviously it's hollow. That'll be a lot of stone. So here we have a little contraption I made where you step on this pressure plate and then immediately right click into this thing here, and then it should just pop me down into the inside of the place. Here I am. Looks about exactly how you would have expected it to, right? This place is really just for like keeping ugly farms in. Here we have some wool storage for when I used to have a wool farm powered by sheep. Here we have where I grow my nether wart for when I need to do lots of smelting and stuff like that, or nether wart blocks or whatever it may be. There's where my beacon is. I tried to keep the illusion that it was actually dug into the ground, but it kind of it looks funny. There's where I get some dripstone. I haven't needed tons and tons of dripstone quite yet, but I'm prepared for the case that I do to make a big scale dripstone farm. over here, this is where I keep my sugarcane farm. I have a itsy bitsy little sugarcane farm to keep me full of rockets. And let me tell you, this makes way more than enough. This, and I also have a general mob farm a little bit over there. Once we get to start showing you the farms, then you'll see a little bit more of that. Here we have a little nano farm and some passive pillagers, because you never know when you might need these guys. And you're probably gonna either wondering how I get out of this place. I know you're just dying to figure it out. Oh, first let me sleep. Well, firstly, there's a hole here, so I could jump out of there, or the slightly less convenient way, I could try to stand on this block here, hold shift, and then hit this button. Wait. And then I kind of just get caught on this ladder. Alrighty. Of course I have to have a little passage down here so I can adjust the beacons or grab the stuff when I need them. You know, I don't want to lock that place out completely. Oh, very last thing that I totally forgot to show you from my island. This is where I keep my dragon egg. Since the combat update when they added all the fancy nether blocks, I've tried to make an effort to make a big end shrine. This one kind of overloaded with dragon heads, with all sorts of end blocks and stuff to put my totally legit dragon egg that I didn't lose at all. Yep. Well, there's one dragon egg in the whole world, and you've got to make sure you protect it with your life, and I've made sure to do that. It always stays right here on the shrine here. That's a good-looking dragon egg. Now it's time to address the elephant in the room. Alrighty. So, okay. I'm on an island in the sky. So, a lot of things that you'll see around here, some things that you'll see up in the sky were on the ground and other things weren't ever on the ground, and I just built them up in the sky. So that scaffolding, this lighthouse, that treasure chest, that oak little house right there, and that villager over there, that little modern house, that barn, that little village, all were on the ground. And one day I was just really losing hope with this world because I just didn't know what to do for like a big I just needed a big project to do. Because at this time I just started watching like Hermitcraft and stuff like that, and I see all these amazing builders and Minecrafters build these huge projects for their bases, and I was worried that I had kind of missed the marks and make a big base because I had already settled into this little house right here, which already had everything I need. What kind of big build can I make around it? So I decided I could just live where I've always lived and just bring it up into the sky. So that became my big mega project and this big ongoing project to basically colonize the sky. And my big endgame goal is to basically never ever have to hit as long as I'm in this area, I should never ever need to go back onto the ground again. Unless you know what I mean. So whenever I need something, it should be in the sky. Even if I don't have an elytra or rockets, I should be able to get from island to island in every single island that I should ever need. And I'm just in the process of working that out. So I've actually gotten pretty far, and it's great to see all the progress that I've made. But it's way far from finished, and this project's probably going to keep going for years and years to come, because I can always just keep expanding outwards and building more builds. I definitely do have some more visions for this place, but that's why some builds kind of seem out of place, because I was just kind of going around building all these builds out of nowhere. So why is there a big treasure chest? That doesn't really make sense with this. I don't know. I just kind of built it. Why is there a statue of a villager with a crappy eye patch? I don't know. I just kind of built it because I was bored. But, I didn't want to take it down. So I brought it up with everything else, and it's just kind of part of my view. There's a villager over there for some reason. That's just how it is. One of the first builds ever was actually that lighthouse. I'm glad to see that still up here with me. And as you may expect, every single one of these islands has an equivalent hole in the ground. And this hole, as far as I know, I could take this island and lower it down, if I had the ability to just grab this island and lower it down into that hole, it will fit perfectly and every block will fit together like puzzles, except for all that sand and dirt and stuff that got misplaced because of Enderman. The only data pack I've ever had to put on this world was Vanilla Tweak's data pack to prevent Enderman griefing, because it just got way out of hand. I couldn't just light up the area to get rid of the Enderman because it's part of my aesthetic to keep that whole place dark down there. So, and they just kept tearing everything up, and all the sides would go down, and there was always water flowing down. It was just a nightmare. And that would apply with all these holes down here, and you could still see some of them are kind of torn up because of all the Endermen. But I haven't had a problem since I've gotten that data pack. So that's basically my big ongoing project. You know what? It's been a lot of minutes, and I've totally forgotten to look at the script. Yeah, I looked at the home island. I've talked about the home island history and gadgets. Okay, let's talk about the lighthouse. So this lighthouse, I was just super compelled one day to build a lighthouse. So I built it. It was a little bit smaller and worse looking than this. I don't really think this is the best build in the world. And it was way down there. And then eventually I built up this scaffolding where I used to keep my melons and pumpkins, which was my main income of emeralds. And then once I built this thing, I built this lighthouse, and lighthouses are supposed to be tall. Then I built this thing, and it was about half as tall as it is now. And then I realized the farm scaffolding is way taller than the lighthouse, so I had to make the lighthouse bigger to make sure it's not overshadowed by the farm scaffolding. And then one day I thought, I need more farm scaffolding, so then I made this bigger. And now right to this day, it's still bigger than the lighthouse. And I'm not going to make the lighthouse any bigger. And the lighthouse now is where I just store all my beacons. I just have like this big spire of beacons coming out, which kind of goes up to world limit. So down here, whenever I need a beacon, I just come down here and grab one from this little pile down here. And that's the whole point of the lighthouse. Alright, the script just told me to talk about the lighthouse, and I did that. Next up is the ocean village. Okay, I wish I was able to show you what this was actually like, but you know, I kept bringing up every single thing, like this island and that island, and most of these things were islands. I kept bringing them up exactly as they were like on the ground. And you would think that, like, according to the lore of this world that I kind of assigned to it, is that everybody was just living in peace and harmony on the ground, and then one day, whoa, some paranormal force is bringing us up into the sky, and then they just kind of learn to live in the sky, and that's kind of the story of this place. It's kind of the narrative. But I didn't want it to all be peaches and roses, so one of the first builds I ever made was in this ocean. I built a circle, a little bit like that, and I built some village houses, and I built a little old school village on it. And then actually, this is where I would go to do my trading and stuff. But I decided, instead of just raising up this entire thing as it is, by just like cutting out a circle around it, or just bringing up the circle itself, I decided to bring up a portion of it, so it's kind of all wrecked and stuff like that. So like chunks of their houses are gone and stuff like that. It looks kind of tragic. And you know, these guys used to be my villagers, but now, since I have a different, better trading hall, these guys kind of just do their best to live down here. And funny enough, there used to actually be a tunnel. I'll actually free cam to show you this. There used to be a tunnel that went down here, and then there is from my basement, there was this little rail track that went all the way over to my house. Except this isn't very functional because this kind of takes me up here. So I used to have an actual rail system to get to and from this village that I built. And this was such a big project to me back in the day. Like this, like I thought like I was like the best builder in the whole world because I just built the biggest thing in a survival world ever. Because this just felt like such a huge project. In hindsight, it's not really all that big. And if we go up into the sky, we can still see this is how the village is doing now. And there's no villages up here. It's pretty abandoned and kind of spooky looking. So this village was actually a pretty big deal to me. Before I figured out that the theme of this base was to be floating islands, for a long while I figured that the theme of my world was going to be to build villages and all sorts of custom villages. So as I walk around, you're going to see one more custom village that has the old school pre 1.14 houses like this, in a kind of abandoned project. And there's a little bit of irony in that village, and I'll show you. I'll show you once I get to it. But right now, I have to show you Otis. So, you gotta do a good old raid every now and then, right? If you're living in a world, you have to do a raid, because that's just like part of like the natural progression of the world to just do a raid. You shouldn't all have every single raid you do just be a farmed raid and stuff like that. You gotta go out and beat a good old raid vanilla, right? Or at least that's my philosophy. So I went to a village and I did a raid and it was successful. And then I realized that every single one of the villagers were dead except for one villager, and I felt horrible. I was like, oh no, I just came into this guy's home and ruined it, killed his whole family, or, summoned goons to kill his whole family. So I decided to capture him and bring him back here, and I built him a nice little house, and this is my boy Otis. He was what's this type of guy? What are you? He's a weaponsmith? Yeah, he's a weaponsmith. So I gave himself a little grindstone so he could keep doing all that, because he just loves it, and he's been living here and all comfortable with himself, and hopefully he's living up with a happier life. So what a sad story. My boy Otis been through all sorts of grief that I could never imagine, but I did everything I could to give him a better life. Villager. Oh yes, my villager. I built this because I was bored, like I mentioned later. So really, this thing does have like double doors in it, like it's supposed to have some kind of interior, but really there's nothing interesting going on. Except for one point, I attempted to put in a trading hall. Those houses over there are actually my trading hall villagers. I'll get to that later. But I tried to have a trading hall down here. So if we drop straight down this hole, hold on, give me a second as I slowly sneak down onto it. You could see the bones of what once was a trading hall. It was kind of difficult because there was this huge ravine in the way. Like there was one up here, and there's actually still villagers down here. What do you know? I should kill these guys because entities, And this is where I got books. I don't remember why I needed these guys. Back when I was on the ground, because most of the things I'm telling you about, like Otis was once on the ground. This guy was once on the ground. Once I get to the structures and stuff that were built on the sky and never touched the ground at all, I'll let you know. But just imagine everything that I show you being on the ground and me being able to walk from place to place. That house right there was the only one right down there that was a trading hall. And there I could fit maybe around 7 villagers in it total, because I was not very space efficient. So whenever I needed, so there were like 7 select enchantments that I could get from them. Not very good, but it definitely did hold me over, and I had all the prot 4 and sharp 5 and mending and efficiency that I needed. Plus a few of the villagers that were over in the circle village over there. So I guess I figured I need to make a proper trading hall, and I didn't feel like fixing up that place, so I just made it underneath this villager. Which I had made just because I was bored, so I decided to use it, put some utility to it. But it just never really came to fruition. Oh boy. Time to talk about my storage system over here. Now this might go on for a while, because there's actually a whole lot of redstone buffoonery going on with this place. So imagine we're on the ground. Imagine like here I am on my island. There's just a little bit of water between me and here, and I fly into this treasure chest, and then this is where it was, and then this is what it kind of looked like. There were chests with stuff in it, and then there was a input chest here, which didn't have all this redstone crap around it at the time. And I would put my items into there, and then they would get sorted, and it went just down and down and down and down, and I had to dig it super low. Even though it was supposed to look like it was floating on the water, I put some wool around the base of it to make it to kind of disguise the fact that it just went way deep into the ground. So that's our problem. This thing went way into the ground. How am I supposed to bring that up without bringing up like all of its insides with it? So I kind of just decided to bring up the exoskeleton of it, which is just this treasure chest and not really the redstone. So there's no redstone. All of this stuff is just for show. So if we hop down into it, we're gonna go bonk. And then here we are in the actual sorting system. This place is laggy, I tell you. There's also a laggy chunk border right here. Oh, come on, work with me. The one time I actually wanted to show off this laggy chunk border, it's not working, but 99% of the time, this chunk border is super laggy, and it's just a huge pain whenever I'm walking over to this third of the sorting system. So that's a shame. But yeah, this is my storage. This is where I get all my stuff. This is the one thing that was on the ground that I just couldn't bring up, so I just gave myself the ability to go up and down super easily. So yeah, it's not really sorted in any particular order. It's very messy, but this is like again, this world witnessed my transition from not knowing anything about like technical Minecraft or advanced Minecraft to being all over it. So pretty much everything you see here was my first of everything. So this is my first actual storage system. My filter item isn't even a renamed item. It's just grass. So there's no grass in this system. And it's also not every single item in Minecraft. It's organized in a way that I understand. Like there's wood here, some nether items, redstone items, mob drops, foliage, kind of whatnot. There's slabs there, but there's also slabs there, so I don't know how I messed that up. And then, but like over time, you might be able to see the patterns and stuff, but it slowly kind of just devolves into just being random junk in no particular order at all. Like, what's this? Is this glass? No, these are stone buttons. Oh, because there's a stone. Gosh, I couldn't even see that. Except I'm kind of facing a problem with this place right now, where they just added a whole bunch of new blocks, as you can see right on this layer. So I ended up using these final 2 layers on the new blocks. So, you know, all this stuff. This is where I put my skulk sensor if I had one. All the deep slate blocks, all these ores, exclusive ores. Ooh, raw blocks. Here we have a bunch of candles and then all the lush cave stuff and the copper items. Of course, I couldn't put every single copper item because there's about 1.5 million different variants of copper items with all the stairs and cut coppers and slabs, all in their different stages of weathering, whether or not they're waxed and stuff. So for now, I just have the waxed versions, and the unwaxed versions, and the waxed versions. But see, and also here's all the overflow. We're pretty much like just unstackables go. And I do have some powder snow. Look at me, I'm rich. But see, hopefully I don't fall into lava here. Yeah, we're pretty close to the bedrock, and basically adding in the total space it takes to put in one of the, this and all this, keep all these doubloons and stuff down here at the bottom and everything like that. I can't fit anymore. So when the time comes that they add more blocks, I'm screwed for space. So I'm either going to have to make a whole new storage system somewhere else, maybe a little mini storage system to store all the new blocks. Maybe I'll just make a whole nother storage system where I have where I just keep all these blocks again, maybe every single block in the game and item all in one area, just somewhere far away, because this place is super laggy as you can imagine with all the hoppers and such. Or the preferable thing, if they somehow introduce a method of me for people who loaded worlds before 1.18 to still go below Y0, below the bedrock. Maybe they're going to overwrite the bedrock with deep slate, and then the caves are going to generate like normal. Maybe there's going to be maybe the bedrock's still going to be there, but those like sub chunks, it's still going to be void, but those sub chunks are still going to be able to be like placed block in, if that makes sense. And I'll be able to just break all of that bedrock and then keep building this down. I kind of like the idea of this storage system kind of just like hanging down in the void. I don't really know what they're going to do. there might be like a huge bedrock wall that separates the super low area from the super high area. Who's to say? But I mean, I'm pretty excited, and I think they're going to start rolling out snapshots pretty soon. So we might actually get a view into what it's going to be like to update old worlds to the snapshots. As for now, it's a mystery, and I have no idea what I'm going to do when they add more blocks in 1.19, I guess. We're probably not going to expect any more new blocks on 1.18, except for maybe goat horns and stuff like that, but I have at least a few spaces freed up. Here we have a little fun gizmo that I put in, where I stand here, press this button, throw that ender pearl in, and then it floats up, so I don't have to do anything. I can just sit here and just wait for that ender pearl to go up, which takes an absurdly long time, and I just can't, like, look at that thing. You see that right up there? That's taking way long, so long. And then there's a little slime block and observer, which should bounce it right on over onto that island. About half the time it works, so hopefully when I teleport, I'm going to be on right near the palm tree. Heck yeah. Alright. Also, I forgot, I'm so rude. Here are my pandas and my axolotls. I think some of them have names. This is Slizami. I love Slizami. This is Larthane. Where's the rest of them? This is Sharproos. And do I have a brown one? I'm not sure if I do, actually. So those are my three beloved axolotls. So I talked about the storage. There are quite a few inputs, actually, for this place. There's an input down there in that chest. That chest that's been here this whole time. You might be wondering, why is this chest here instead of on this hopper? Well, I'll tell you why. Because there's also a input way up here. So I could put items into this chest. And they're basically just going to get auto-dropped out into that cobweb. You can see it right there, the hitbox. Slowly drops down, and then it lands in that hopper right there that my cursor's on. Let me grab some more rockets right quick. But there's one more little input, and it's the reason why there's all this redstone around. And you might have also gotten a glimpse of this earlier. But there's this thing here. A little chest minecart, and when I press it, we have some unnecessarily complicated redstone that when I press this button, it comes over, and then this minecart, you'll see it'll merge right out here. Go up these little stepping stones. Bop, drop down there, keep going, up there. And then it'll give its items, and then it'll send the minecart back, and man, it's already on its way. And then it drops those items down. So I don't have to go all the way over here. I can just input items into my storage system from my island, which is super convenient. Most of the redstone you'll see around here are my designs, you know, unless it's like a huge thing. Most these like little tiny gadgets and gizmos I made by myself. You know, so like this thing, the little minecart pressure plate thing that took me down to the bottom. All of those were my design. I know, I'm such a special snowflake. Okay, what's next up? Steampunk. Alright, so once upon a time, basically just to give you like a little idea of like what the land is like around me. There's this island here, which way is north. This way is north, right? North and south of me, there are oceans. East and west of me, east and west, there is land. So on the ocean, I want to put lots of floating ocean-related things, like lighthouses, sure. And on the other sides, I wanted to basically make two contrasting sides of civilization, where one side would have kind of farmland and stuff like that, and humble farmers and stuff like that, where the other side is going to be kind of industrial and kind of foggy, kind of Liberty City-ish, New York City-ish kind of vibe. So what's the perfect building style for that? Steampunk. These houses aren't really the best. but they're my own designs. And I'd never done steampunk before until here. So I'm actually pretty proud of that. That's the first house I made. You can see it's not really all that great. It's just I kind of just got the block palette down. But then I kind of started taking off, and then that was my next house. It's just a nice, simple, big shape. And then I don't remember what houses I ended up building after that, but there's a huge one right over here. And, you know, all these, they got the steam coming out, and I tried to make it look like they had lots of moving parts. I bet you're wondering if I did the full interiors of these. Well, of course I did. No, not quite, actually. But I just, it looks kind of funny because I didn't even do the top of these islands. But I have these little walkways, and actually I accidentally made the walkways look like an octopus, if you see that. With the little fountain here. And honestly, I'm really happy with how this turned out. This clock tower, however, is not my design. I have the credits up here. This is a design by Mindful. Mindful, if you're out there, thank you for this wonderful clock tower. I love it. I love the gears sticking out and everything. I would have never been able to make anything that looks all that nice. Perhaps my favorite house is over here. That one. Which isn't really in the village. But, so here, as you can see, these are the spawn chunks, right? And the place where I spawn every time when I die is right down there. And you can see there's a little square within chunk boundaries made out of moss carpet. So it's not spawnable down there. So I wanted to block out all the spawning spaces down there so that the game would try to spawn me down there. Like, say I come through the end portal or something, or I die, and I come over here. I didn't want to keep spawning on the ground. I want to spawn on the sky. I live in the sky. I'm a skyman. So, so what I did is I have this house in here, where if we walk into it, also there's moss carpet here. As I walk into here, and then go up this little ladder scaffolding, there's a single grass block here. Also an ender chest and a crafting table and a hole here. So when I come out the end portal and my bed was missing or obstructed, I spawn right here in the sky. And I can pop out here out the top of the thing. And here I am. Charged creeper. Time to show you my charged creeper according to the script. Don't tell me it's a weird order. I didn't write the script. Here's my buddy. There's not a whole lot to see here. I just have a charged creeper. Yeah, I did set up this whole area and like a big contraption, kind of just like waited around for a thunderstorm to happen. And when it did, I spent the whole time just charging a creeper with my trident and then storing them up here. It's just kind of like a nice thing to see. I gave him a little jail cell. And I could get real up close to him and oh, he's not going to hurt me. But I'm sure as soon as I break one of these blocks, I'm screwed. OBX. OBX is a short term for Outer Banks, regarding the Outer Banks in North Carolina, which is like a thin strip of land of beaches and stuff. Really nice place. The architecture and houses and stuff around there are very, very distinct and really nice. So I decided to build a house in that style. So there's just like this little random house over here. You know, it's kind of like the Villager and stuff like that. It's just a build that I made because I was bored. It doesn't have a whole lot of interior. It's made out of wool. There's a king size bed. I know, lovely. Some bunk beds. If I walk up here, then we actually do have some nice interior. So like a little kitchen and a TV and some balconies. And apparently it's not finished because there's this whole strip. Don't ignore that. Yeah. You know, look, not every build here necessarily has the most exciting story. Zombie. So we have the villager over there, which is out of render distance. I play on a 14 render distance apparently, because it's because if I bump it up just a little bit, then I get way less frames. But that's off topic. There's a villager over there. What's the counterpart of what's a villager's counterpart? A zombie. So I had a zombie, a little statue built down there. Oh look, there's other zombies down there. Oh yeah, by the way, I do have a mob switch running right now. So if I'm walking around at nighttime and you're all worried, like, oh no, watch out for the mobs. There aren't going to be any mobs, but there might be phantoms. So I built a zombie up here, and this is one of those, another situation, kind of like the circle village over there, where I didn't want to just like bring it up and act like everything's just like okay when I brought it up. So I brought it up, and then there's a little bit of wreckage left behind. So it's kind of cool to like have these like little Easter eggs on the ground and stuff like that. As things get brought up, and you can see, oh no, it's broken. Well, there's the rest of it down there. By the way, there's that village that I was talking about way, way, way long before. I'm probably talking about this way before the script tells me to, but way, way long ago, I had an idea to build a village floating over top of here. I also had an aspiration to take this dark oak forest that I deforested and like turn it all into path blocks, but I haven't really done much with that, so we kind of have this ugly straight line here. But this is also a dark oak village here, which I converted to a mushroom island. More on that later. And this is another dark oak biome over here. And there's this little tiny plains biome in it. So what I did is I built a village up here in the shape, and I traced the plains biome. So if I stand on this block, you'll see here my biome is plains, and it immediately turns into a different biome once I wander out of it. So like right here, I'm in plains, dark forest, right? I put a little village in here. There's actually villagers up here. They're all masons though, since I tried to use them for clay and that didn't really work out. I didn't really populate this one as effectively as the last one, but I have all the houses and stuff, the legendary blacksmith house. I actually did put all beds in these because villagers kind of need those now. And what I decided to do is build the exact same village below, but it's all messed up down here. So there's like explosion holes, and all the windows are boarded up, and in places where there's moss, there's like mossy cobblestone and stuff like that, and the crops just aren't running, and there's vines and stuff, and oh, it's just horrible. So, you know, back in the day when I didn't have a mob switch, I would encounter creepers down here, and I would just like let them blow up just to like make the aesthetic a little bit more real. So yeah, that's a cool project. Again, I was expecting to really have just like tons and tons of villages all over the place, but that never really happened. Oh yes, mushrooms, mushrooms. Like I said, this used to be a dark oak biome, and I don't really like the look of dark oak biomes. I think they're kind of gloomy, and like you kind of expect to see monsters like that even in the day. So what I actually did was I deforested this little area, and I put a bunch of slabs down to turn all the grass into dirt, broke all those slabs, or burnt all of them rather, and then put down some mycelium and let it spread so that this dark forest, as you can see, it's the dark forest, turned into a mycelium biome. Of course, I'm not really fooling anyone because these things always generate as islands and not extensions of other things, but it almost looks like a natural mushroom biome. And all the mushrooms are up in the sky now. I'm not really sure if I like the look of this, honestly. It kind of looks a little flat up there. Like, what's it? It kind of just made the down here look kind of ugly, so I think I'm going to bring up more chunks of mycelium up there to make it just look a little bit more lively over there. But let me tell you, these mushrooms did used to be there, and it was a pain in the butt to individually transfer each of these mushrooms down from the top and up and whatever. And there's mushrooms here, and they actually stay in the area pretty good. They wander around and whatnot. They do their best. Up next, the floating village. Oops. Ships. Alright, now we're moving back over here. Isn't this just a stellar view? Just seeing all this. I love it. I'm so proud of myself. I know, I'm just the greatest. So, there's quite a lot of space between here and over there. Again, I'll get to that side of that village area very soon. But I don't want there to be too much space between islands without there's something interesting to keep your eyes occupied. So I built 3 little ships in this little water area. I couldn't really put like buildings and stuff in this area because buildings can't go on water, and that wouldn't make sense. So I ended up building these ships, and these are actually one of the way more recent builds. I built these very recently, not before. Oh, not after day 10,000, but very close to that. So those are the ships. I actually really like them. I got this from some kind of map. I can't credit the original builder of these. I'm sorry, because a friend of mine sent me the map or the schematic that had all these ships in them. But this one actually has like full interior with cannons and stuff like that, and beds and whatnot. It's just, these are really nice ships. They're kind of a pain in the crack to build because there's all these little details all over the place. Look. But I stayed strong, guys. I did. I really did. Rivers. All right, yeah. So I guess we're starting to advance over towards this area. So let me show you the rivers. There were some rivers running through this area here, so I actually brought up these rivers, which I just think is a pretty cool aesthetic. So all the sand is still the sand, of course, and I didn't really take out the bottom layer like it kind of looks like I should have. I just kind of drained it, and I think it has the exact effect that I'm going for. And we have this cool little waterfall coming down here, so you're probably not going to want to get your boat stuck on this river. And so there's this first river here, and then there's another slightly wider river over this way. And I may end up actually raising up that little body of water there, and then this river here, which leads into this huge area. So those are the rivers. I don't really have like too many. It kind of seems like I'm speeding through this. I was super slow when talking about all those, but those things actually have like some pretty interesting stories behind them. But these rivers, I don't have too much to say about them. So I'm kind of just speeding through it. Plus, there's way more parts of the world besides just this. I mean, there's actually not that much besides this place. So, you know, let's try to go fast, or at least a little bit faster. Sorry, I have a hard time gathering my thoughts. Up next is the farmland. I guess by the farmland, I mean this little windmill. Do I have farmland and windmill right next to each other? So here, just to like fill up space, and because I really want to push this area as being like a farm area where hopefully when I'm done, like that area over there, I'm probably going to add more steampunk elements to it later. For this place is going to have lots of farm elements, and it's definitely going to seem more rustic. So Minecraft, there's just something about wheat fields in Minecraft that just looks so lovely. And what's something that you kind of got to have in a farm area? A windmill, of course. I also have credits. This is by Captain Jack, Captain J-E-K. Excellent windmill. I love it. I love it. This is a great windmill. So I have this like lovely little windmill that was built that leads into this wheat field here. And I got a little scarecrow down there. And you can actually see down here that all the wheat field is filled in down here too. So it used to be a full-on wheat field, and then like little chunks of it was added. Because I don't want to bring up one huge island, because I don't want to like take away the attention from that big huge island. I kind of messed myself up by making that island the maximum size, you know, so I can't have an island bigger than that. So when I want to bring up a big area of land, I just bring it up in little chunks like this. And it ended up looking really nice. I'm very happy with the result. So yeah, not really too much of an interesting story around here, besides the fact that I just want everything to look all rustic and farm-like. And I'll talk a little bit more about this guy a little bit later. The stables. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a secret. I don't have an iron farm right now. I used to. Let me actually go over here. This is gonna be somewhat long journey all the way back over to the steampunk side. I know. We have this little area here. Those chests are gonna render in. Yep. And right here, I have some double chests. These chests used to be full of these iron blocks, and I had a iron farm in this area, up in the sky, up here. As you could see, there's those maps so there actually show it. But I took it down in favor of this aesthetic, nice looking steampunk house. So I actually don't have an iron farm right now because I took it down and I just haven't bothered building it back up. But I do have quite a few iron blocks in reserve, so I haven't really needed one. So when I took down the iron farm, it's a 30 villager design by Nemban. I didn't want to just like kill the villagers in them, so instead I wheeled them all the way over here, and I put them in the stables. And this stables was designed by me, and I think it turned out really nice. I'm just really happy with it. I definitely didn't come into this world the best builder or redstoner, so this is kind of documenting my journey of like learning how to build. Like you can see that barn way over there, over my left shoulder. That's one of the earlier builds I made a long time ago. I'm not sure if it's in the script to talk about that, so I'll go and make sure and tell you about that. And then there's this barn over here, which I'll talk about. That's one of my favorite builds in the whole world. That little barn, I'll show you why. But this is where I store my villagers. So they're just stuck in these holes. There's 3 of them. So it was a 30 villager design. Each cell would have 3 villagers. What's 3 times 10? What am I saying? Yes, 10, I'm just trying to envision in my mind. 10 individual villager cells in this iron farm design. So that's 30 villagers total distributed into 10 cells. Yes, I can do math. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where all 30 villagers are stored. And actually, there's a little bit of redstone down here, which again I designed myself. Which basically, if I press like this button here, then it'll just snatch one of these villagers by using this dispenser here to dispense a. Well, okay. What will happen is this block will lower down. It'll all push them over into this corner right here, so that when this dispenser dispenses a minecart, it'll just grab them and then it'll just plop them down into this little area here, where then I'm gonna have to do some fancy stuff to extract them. So once I build an iron farm once again somewhere, I'm probably gonna end up using these same villagers, or maybe not, because it's just kind of like the idea of having villagers captive in a stables treated like horses. I know, I'm such a nice guy. Barn. Okay, I know it's talking about that barn over there, but first I'm going to take you over to this crappy barn on this crappy island, way far out. Like I said, I only had one villager trading hall room, and I eat these mangoes, which are actually golden carrots. And how do I get those golden carrots? Well, you get them through trading, obviously. But you need farmers for that, and I keep my farmers in this barn here. Which, when it was back on the ground, there was just full of a bunch of farmers. Well, when I would run out of food, I would run over here and get more. It was kind of chaotic. It's not really a great build. I kind of designed the whole thing in like 10 minutes. I'm just not really happy with how this barn turned out. So I killed off all the villagers in it. They kind of got turned into zombies way long ago anyway. So that's a long distant memory, but I keep the barn there for the good, just to remind me of the good times. But let me show you this barn over here. This is this really stupid story. It's a really stupid build, and I'll tell you why. So basically, I was watching a Ethos Lab video, and he had this really cool contraption where he had a lectern, and and a book in it that looked like a menu, and he would click through the pages and he would select a enchantment, and then he would press a button, and then it would dispense that corresponding enchanted book to him with the enchantment on it. And of course, like, I'm amazed, like my mind is blown, because I just thought it was super cool. And I kind of got thinking, wouldn't it be cool to be able to do that with villagers too, where you have a lectern and you select through them, then you press a button, and then it delivers the villager to you, so that you could trade with them instead of just giving you the book. So then you don't have to like keep putting in more books and more books. You just You just press the button, and it takes the villager to you, and you have emeralds and this stuff to trade with them, and then you press the button to send them back. That's basically, essentially what this machine is here, except it didn't really work with villagers. One, because I don't need those villagers in this world. I already have those. And two, I didn't really put in a way for it to really work with villagers so they can restock. So instead I thought, I'm just going to make the most advanced barn using the same concept. So here, let's just say, I want to see my goats. Then we're going to press here, this light's going to turn on. And it's going to deliver my goat. His name is Maverick. And then I can send Maverick back, and then he goes back to his place. And once this light turns off, that means that we're ready to use the machine again. I turned off my sound so you couldn't hear all the stupid creatures that were in here. But once I turn it up, you're going to hear all the redstone going. You probably hear that pillager. Let's get that pillager out here. Here he is. His name is Huxley. And then get ready for this. You're going to hear a bunch of pistons. Alright, I'll show you how the redstone works. I'm really proud of this. I don't want to act like I don't know like anything about redstone, but I'm definitely not a redstone pro. So this is like just one of those things that I'm just happy with, that I designed myself. So I'll try to explain it. It's a little tight, and it's all within this barn. Hey. Obviously, so we are using a comparator and a red coder here. This is one of those new fancy red coders designed by that Mumbo Jumbo. Which then, what we're looking for is the singular torch along this line to be turned on. So as you can see, it's this one, because right now we're selected on the pillagers, right? Yeah, okay. So the fourth one from the beginning. So the fourth torch is turned on, 1, 2, 3, 4. When I press this button here to activate it, what happens is this very tight torch tower comes on, and then goes through all these target blocks, which then pushes this whole row of blocks that I'm looking at down. As you can see, these pistons here. And when they do that, the only one of these repeaters that gets a signal is the one from the one on torch, if that makes sense. I've never really had to explain one of these to an audience before. Or like explain anything to an audience before. So that means only the corresponding powered rail will turn on, and then because of the way that these powered rails go, they'll just go, they'll get pushed out, and then they'll actually move down here with pretty good momentum. And then they'll just drop down here, and then they'll just peek out this hole. And look at me now. Look at me here. And when I press this button, all I'm really doing is just activating this powered rail, which scoots on along here, and then like kind of just like does some weird tricky rail magic to make its way back up to here and just land itself on this block here, where this conveyor belt like thing comes out. So all these pistons will just individually pop out and push them forward, and then they'll drop into a hole because this slab opens up. I kind of missed that part. Here, let me show you with the pig. So I was barely able to catch him moving over here. But basically, the pig is also inside of this string block here, which when he moves out, the observer picks that up, so it pulls out this block here. Then he traveled along here and landed here. So basically, what I have to do is press this button, quickly enter free cam, and then be able to get a good view of the redstone going on. So wish me luck. So he lands there, and then you can see the conveyor belt moving along. And the conveyor belt just goes all the way down, and then once it reaches the end, then it sends a little, once the conveyor belt does one round, it activates this little monostable circuit, which turns off the light to show that we're done. Boy, was that horrible. Sorry, I've never had to explain a redstone circuit to you, and this one just looks so tight, and I would understand if you don't really understand redstone too well. It just looks like a bunch of, yeah, I should stop talking while I'm ahead. But this is one of my favorite things just because I think it's hilarious, you know? I don't get why barns in real life are doing this. I mean, we have to manually walk in there and, like, look at our cows and stuff like that. Why don't they just do it like this and bring the cows to them? I know, I'm such an innovator. Barn pond. Oops. There's the pond. This is probably the most unique island that I've risen up out of all of them. Because, okay, so down here, where this big hole once was, there was like a little pond here, which wasn't quite connected to the ocean. But it's just like this neat little circle. I really wanted to do something with it for a long time, but I never knew what to do. When I started raising things up out of the ground, of course it was a no-brainer to just bring it up. And I had to do this like a little bit differently, because usually the things that I'm bringing up out of the ground are purely above ground. So take the villager, for example. All I would have to do is take the villager and like the general shape of the island that he's on, and then I would design the bottom part of this island, so this whole thing here, on my own. So that's why these are all hollow. And then build that, destroy the original thing, and then dig a hole the exact same way. But since this thing this pond dips down, what I ended up doing was just copying a big block of land that encompassed this whole thing, and then I just use lots of fast clicking scripts and stuff like that to click, and just shave down this whole thing. So that's why out of all the islands, this one looks the most realistic, because it actually is based off of exactly what was down there. It's very rough looking, and honestly, I'm not too unhappy with it. It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb sometimes, but I forgive it because the top of it is just so peaceful. And we get fish spawns because I guess we're in a beach or a lukewarm ocean biome here. So there's kelp and seagrass and everything, and I built this little raft on it, which is kind of based off of Grian's barge from Hermitcraft Season 7. I just like to go here in Minecraft and just kind of think and stuff. It's a really nice place made out of these extinguished campfires. Really happy. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Skywars Island. Okay, you guys want to know another secret? I'm not just a survival player. I'm not like the other girls. I also play Hypixel games. So yeah, I've gone through phases where I get super into games like Skywars on Hypixel. So for a point of my life, I was actually barely attending to the survival world because I was just playing lots of Skywars, and then eventually, more recently, I started playing Bed Wars. And it's not like I have never played Skywars ever again. Like, I still play it on occasion. It's just sometimes I'm in the phase where I'm just playing survival a lot. Sometimes I'm in a phase where I'm playing Skywars a lot. And since I am so attached to Skywars, and I just think it's just like one of my favorite PvP games out there. And since Hypixel did Skywars so well, like, good job, Simon. I know you're watching. I decided to pay homage and make a little Skywars island based off of the map Plateau. So I went into Hypixel Network, and I don't know if this is illegal or not. I mean, like, I wasn't cheating or anything, but I used Lightmatica to grab a little schematic of this island, and I built it. And actually, I also have the loot in there. So that's just fun. There's actually some diamond ore in here and everything, as there are in like pretty much every other Skywars island. So this is actually one of the more interesting builds. It's kind of coincidental and ironic how I just happen to make my entire world revolve around floating islands, and the main PvP game that I play is also about floating islands. That was not intentional. I didn't even think about that when I made the decision to start making floating islands. But I really like the way the Hypixel build team does it. Like, there's planks down there. Like, who would have thought? And it works out so well. Up next, Mumbo. No, not Mustache Guy Mumbo. So one of my favorite video games besides Minecraft in the whole wide world, is the Banjo-Kazooie franchise. So there are two main games, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. I'm not going to sit here and explain what the game's about. You can look it up, or you probably already know about it. But funny enough, in that game, there's a character named Mumbo Jumbo, and he lives in a skull, which looks like this. It's not made out of pumpkin in the game, but it is in here. There's also dirt everywhere because Enderman put that there and stuff, whatever. But it basically looks exactly like this, and I tried to match the interior and stuff like this. Again, this is another random build along the lines of that house or the villager. So this is actually based off of the interior and exterior from Banjo-Tooie, because I felt like it was just a little bit more expansive on the inside. And when I go in here, we have a little friend waiting for us. Alright, so right now you're thinking, okay, a full diamond drowned. What's the big deal? This is pretty important to me because this is the first and only full diamond naturally spawned zombie I've ever found. This guy is wearing armor that was spawned on him. I didn't put that on him. He used to be a zombie, and then zombies don't really know how to swim as of 1.13, so he sadly got turned into a drowned. And he's also holding andesite. That's because I found him while I was digging out the huge hole down there. And right now he just sits here on Mumbo's throne, keeping it warm for when Mumbo hopefully comes back. I miss you, Mumbo. Please bring back that milk that you said you were getting. Alrighty, land outlines. Alright, we're really zooming through this and moving through this quickly and quickly. Down here, there's a pretty big chunk of land right there with nothing on it. And really, I would go over to that area just to do, like, build up things. Like, maybe I need to, like, convert a whole bunch of logs into stripped logs. So I place them all down over there. I'd strip them and then I'd break them. And it's kind of just like a work area. And still, like, now, whenever I just, like, needed, like, an area of just a blank canvas of land to just, like, build temporary things and little contraptions and stuff for doing little chores, I would still have to go onto the ground. As you can see down there, I have, like, a little farm and, like, some other stuff down there. Like, there's a little snow layer farm that I had to build really recently. So I figured, like I said, I never want to have to touch the ground ever again. So eventually, you could kind of see the planning process and how these islands come to be. I mark these out with wool, and then I copy this into another world where then I go and design the islands. And soon enough, all these islands, there should be a whole bunch of holes down there and a whole bunch of islands down here. And I kind of did it in a similar fashion to that. So I'm pretty excited about that. And also, you can see that not every single island has a hole dug yet. That's just because I'm lazy sometimes and I need to do my chores more. So like the barn doesn't have a hole and the stables don't have a hole. I will get on that very, very soon. But I have bigger fish to fry at the moment, which I'll show you. Okay, what's next? Tropical islands. This is one of the most recent builds, as you can see by the 1.17 blocks. So, okay, I'm going to go into free cam to demonstrate this. You see how there's this whole area of land is only like 1 or 2 blocks thick of water. That's because there used to be land here, all the way around here. And one day, I just decided to get rid of all of it. I don't really remember why. Oh, you know what? It's because I like mowed it all down once. I made it look all crappy and stuff like that. And I didn't want to terraform the land back to what it looked like before. So I just got rid of it. So actually, if I come over here, this is all just like manually terraformed. And there's all this. It was just a weird time. This is actually where that printer used to be. Right over here. I flattened out a huge portion of land to put that printer. And I hated the way it looks, so then I just flattened it all out. So I've been meaning to put something here, so I built these islands. It's just like this little small chain of islands with a little pond on it with some coral and a book and quill where I gather my thoughts and stuff like that. And I put some palm trees, and it's just a really nice tropical looking build. I just another excuse to use the new leaves, azalea leaves, best leaves, and tough, and all these bushes and stuff. And I think it turned out really nice. And we got some cattails and all that, a nice hammock. So yeah, again, not like the best backstory in the whole world. I just thought I need some tropical islands. So then I designed them up, I built them. Still need to build that hole though. See, like this is an example of like something. Oh yeah, you know, I said that I was going to distinguish the things that once were on the ground and not on the ground. The barn, the stables, the windmill, this village that I haven't talked about yet, that village I haven't talked about yet, that Skywars Island, the barn, and all the steampunk places were not on the ground. And same with the clock tower. Those were not on the ground. Once I built those, I built them in the sky and kind of just made it look like they were on the ground. You know, because I got to expand like that. Sorry, I didn't distinguish that like I said I would. And again, not the most amazing story. I just thought I need tropical islands, so I went ahead and I built tropical islands, and I think it turned out really nice. And there's a little dock. Skywars Island, where are we right now? Tropical islands. Well, it's telling me to enter the nether, but I haven't even showed off this place yet, so I guess the script people forgot this, so the producers, I should say. So, oops. So let me show you this island. I decided to put a little, a little village here. Actually, this piece of land right here, where all those holes are, used to be where my sheep farm was, but it was super ugly and looked like a big circuit board, and I didn't like looking at it. So what I ended up doing was designing 8 minimalistic houses, 4 of them with their doors straight forward, and 4 of them with their doors at a diagonal. And some of them look nicer than others. And I put them in this nice circle surrounded by this farmer guy here. So it's kind of like, it's, you know, this is, I don't know. It's just a statue of a farmer. It's like the, you know, respect for the farmers and stuff and whatnot, because this whole area is just going to eventually be interconnected as like one big bustling community of villagers and farmers that function in a little community. So this is definitely probably going to feel a little bit more real than the steampunk place, but hopefully I can inject a little bit of heart and soul into the steampunk place. As much heart and soul as over there as there is here. And so this is just, yeah, that's all it is. There's a cow up here. He's not hurting anybody, and they all have low mailboxes. Less importantly, there's this village over here, which is all consisting of the same house, but it has a little tiny fountain. This place is just kind of funny. I just decided that there's this huge stretch of land here with nothing on it. It's perfect for a straight village. So that one has the houses in a circle. This one has them in a line where they're all kind of facing in towards this central area. This place doesn't actually feel as lively as the other one, especially since all the houses are copies of each other. I'm not as proud of these houses as I am the other ones, but still, I'm still pretty happy with how they look nonetheless. And they're just like these nice little quaint little bungalows, you could say. So yeah, and that's pretty much every single island. I touched on everything except for these, and also I don't know if the script intends for me to return it back here again, so let me just touch on the things that it forgot about. Like I said, out of all these houses, this was the only one that was once on the ground, and there used to be 7 librarian villagers in it. Now there's this many, and they all, you know, are labeled with blast protection 4. I don't know why I have a blast protection villager. Oh no, I only glowed up half the signs. Oh no, ugly. Oh, these guys are jumping around. These guys actually all used to be in minecarts, but it was so laggy that I had to get them out of it, and I just did that like recently, like not even a week ago. These guys used to be in minecarts. So I'm not quite used to all the honey jumping sounds as they're trying to get out, but I think it's a little funny. So yeah, this is where I get my enchantments now. Pretty much every enchantment you could ever need with room for more. And this guy doesn't like his lectern. Come on, man. I'm not even going to worry about it. And then I decide to make a brand new house for each of the villager types. So some of these have a little bit of history behind them, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. These guys I get XP bottles from. I think I originally got these guys as a trade for redstone before I had a good functioning witch farm. But right now, these guys actually give me XP bottles. So whenever I'm flying far away and I need a quick repair on the good old elytra, I'll just slap down some of those bottles. And again, I did come back through here and do some lag prevention because there used to be like few hundred mobs or so, or entities, and just in this one area because you see as many villagers as there are here and here. Imagine that amount of villagers in every single one of these places, plus one minecart per villager. So I kind of came in and got rid of the villagers that I didn't need. You can't even tell that they're gone though, right? Like, hey man, how you doing? Yeah, he's fine. These guys are my cartographers back before I started duplicating sand and stuff like that and smelting that down into glass. This is how I was able to get sand or glass in bulk, but that didn't really help cover my lack of sand problem, so I ended up duplicating sand anyway. And these guys are all gone because I don't need that glass anymore. But also, funny enough, this place actually used to have more librarians in them. Where, yeah, they would give me glass. Oh, you have a keen eye, don't you? You realize, wait, hold on, cartographers don't give you glass. You're right, they don't. Instead, these guys became my low-income method of, or my, what did I just say? My method of getting tons and tons of emeralds via trading. I kind of decided that I had a much easier time using a witch farm. Raid farm for that. So I would give these guys glass panes, was what I would do. I would dupe the sand, smelt it down, turn it into panes, and then give these guys glass panes, and then they would give me lots of emeralds. Hence all the glass in here. That didn't really work out too well. Here, there's only 3 or 4 villagers left in here. Here we have 2 Fletchers, one of which, over here, this is the important guy, weakness arrows. Ooh, I'm a lucky boy. I didn't even intend for that when I made this. But basically we have a whole bunch of guys, this many blast furnaces, the same amount of stone cutters, and the same amount of, what are these? Grindstones, and the same amount of, what are these? Upgrade gear, smithing tables. So I used to have an armor smith in every single one of these places, a toolsmith in all these, and a weaponsmith in all these. I decided not to do that and just have one, because one of these guys gives me all the diamond armor I'll need. Which, I know I shouldn't give my opinion, but I gotta say this, alright? That's a reference to, never mind. I don't think that diamond armor and diamond tools should be renewable like this. It kind of takes away from the value and valuableness of diamonds. So now diamonds, technically, diamonds aren't really in that many crafting recipes. They're in diamond tools, diamond armor, jukeboxes, enchanting tables. Like, that's it, right? So by making you able to just trade for these, and it almost worked out, because then you might think like, oh well, sure, I could get these, but they're not going to have the right enchantment, so I wouldn't want them. But you could just stone cut them off, or grindstone them off. So like why would you ever spend your diamonds on these when you could just use one of these guys? It's like way easier. So I'm not really cool with that. So right now, the most valuable items that use diamonds in their crafting recipe are jukeboxes, enchanting tables, and diamond hoes, and all the netherite variants of those. Of course, netherite is still valuable because netherite's hard to get, but I digress. And also, I have a nice little zombie boy right over here, and I just hop in this boat and go ow, 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 ow as I boat him over inside of these places. I just let him loose and just let him kill all these people, and I cure them, and that's my high-tech curing station. Alright, I think that's it. I didn't quite cover it. There's a tree farm that's by Ilmango. Over there's a cobblestone farm generator thing, also by Ilmango. Here is a hostile mob farm, general hostile mob farm, also by Ilmango. Here I have a little AFK thing up here. This is actually one of the first automatic farms I ever built, but I had an original version, which is over right in this area. but then I removed it because it was kind of getting in the way, so I moved it back over here, and all of the drops get funneled up here into this place here, so all of mob drops come down here. I'm kind of speeding through this, my apologies. So I don't actually have to go onto the ground ever to use this farm, or to access the items that the farm gives me. I just go into that little crappy building. And also I didn't really mention this, but I have this like walkway that goes around this whole thing. That's pretty awesome. I really like the look of it. It has these like tiny little islands holding them up, and like you can see the craters as they go around. Here is a little villager breeder by Impulse SV. I have a hunch that this might also contribute to a little bit of lag. Yeah. I might have to go and take care of those guys. Can you guys stop it? Oh. Man, these two lovebirds, they just do not stop. So, Impulse SV, fully automatic villager breeder. Cool. Here is a little redstone project, a little collaborative project between me and two of my other friends, where I'm going to talk about this one for a little bit because it's a little bit of an interesting idea, and also I'll talk about a new addition that one of my other friends came up with, which is kind of an improvement on this. But of course you've probably heard about how stasis chambers are super easy to make nowadays. Oh, I don't have any ender pearls loaded up into it. Let me grab some of those while I talk about it. Because you can just use bubble columns for it. So we got to thinking, Elmango actually made a video way back in the day. I mean, not like super long ago, but he made a video about using stasis chambers even before like this new method was even possible. He had a method of using old school stasis chambers along with wolves or dogs rather, to wirelessly send signals across the world to teleport you from one place to another. And that's really cool. But then me and some friends were messing around with zero ticking. So, you might know this. If you take a gravel and take some zero tick smart pistons like this, it might not really work very well because I'm recording right now. Sometimes it's a little bit slow. But if this thing actually manages, it doesn't actually struggle all this much, I promise. But if that gravel actually makes it all the way around, it's just going to keep going around in a circle because of these zero-tick smart pistons and actually hovering, and the gravel's not actually ever going to fall. And that's super cool. But then we found out that if you log out and log back in, the gravel will fall, and you can detect that. So basically, as the gravel's spinning around, we have this redstone block and this repeater sending a signal through the gravel, which keeps this little trap door open, and you throw a ender pearl in here, and then you use a chunk loader to load the. Well, actually, I'll get to that later. Basically, all you have to do is oh yeah, sorry. You also have to make this in the spawn chunks. Like I said, I am in the. Hold on. Yeah, I'm in the spawn chunks here. Sorry, again, not very good at explaining things like this. So let me just start over a little bit. The gravel goes around, which keeps this trapdoor up, and then you load in a pearl into this. Since the spawn chunks always stay loaded, no matter where you go, this gravel is always going to be spinning around. Anyway, and when all you have to do is unload the spawn chunks and then reload them, and then the gravel's going to fall and then send you back over here because of your ender pearl. And there's two ways to unload the spawn chunks. One way is to go into the nether and come back out. That'll unload the spawn chunks. And another way is to just log out of the game, because of course that's going to unload it. But the problem with that is, what if you want to use the nether travel? Because if you're loading one of these things up, the idea is that you would think like, oh, I'm going out super far and I don't want to have to make the journey all the way back. Let me just start this up, bop, 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 and then you load in your ender pearl, and then you're good. If you're going super far away, you're probably going to be using the nether. So here I have a little chunk loader actually down here in here, which will keep the spawn chunks loaded even when you're in the nether, so that it doesn't send you back once you exit the nether, so you can use the nether travel. So in order for me to use this, I just turn on this chunk loader here, load in the gravel, which isn't really working. If I relog the world a few times, it'll start getting going. It's just a little bit slow right now. Throw in an ender pearl, and then I could go anywhere I want in the world, and all I have to do is relog, and then it'll send me back. A friend of mine had an idea to improve this, which I pretty much had no part in designing, so this is all him, where instead of having to think like, oh boy, I better set this up, and then having to manually set everything up, so, like throw an ender pearl in and think like, oh yep, I'm going far away, time to set this thing up. I'm babbling kind of incoherently right now. He had the idea of basically, instead of logging out once, what you would do is you would log out, log in, and then and stay in the game. You log out, then log in, and then log out, then log in immediately. And then what it would do is using a very similar system with falling gravel, it'll detect multiple logouts and then send you back, so that you don't actually have to think to load in a individual ender pearl for each time you're going to go out super far away. So technically with that system, at any point you could just say, oh, I want to go back home, double log out, and then you'll just appear right back at home. And that's super cool. And then the idea is that once you appear back, it'll hand you, and it'll just spit out a new ender pearl at you, so you can just load one in, and then there you go. Give me one moment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the last floating island for us to look at. Sorry, I'm not very good at explaining redstone. I don't know what kind of terms people do and don't understand, and whether or not you know what chunk loaders are. But now, don't be fooled. We will be back to the overworld, but right now it's time to check out the nether. Because according to the script, we're supposed to enter the nether, check out the nether island. The first big project that I ever did was before I ever used Lightmatica. And what I did is I took this island and I basically built it block for block, but out of netherrack in the nether. So let's check that out. Here we are. It doesn't really, and I don't think it's as spectacular as it possibly could have been. And also there's this redstone stuff going on all around the place, and I'll get to that. But I replaced the bamboo with twisting vines, and I replaced the water with lava and stuff like that. And because in the 1.16 we got all these sorts of different blocks, like we had nether equivalent for logs and nether equivalents for this stuff. What's this? Blackstone or cobblestone. A nether equivalent for cobblestone. So in my houses and stuff where I use cobblestone and stuff like that, I'll have a thing to use. As well as, like, sure, there's always been a nether equivalent for sand, but like if you wanted to distinct between sand and gravel, you would kind of just use gravel, because gravel is already an occurrence in the nether. So now instead of that, you could use like soul soil for sand and soul sand for gravel, which sounds kind of funny when I say it out loud, but it kind of makes sense. There used to be a whole bunch of ghasts and stuff spawning on here, so eventually I just said enough was enough, and I kind of put a bunch of ugly buttons on it. I apologize for that. I don't really go in here all that often and marvel at it as much as I used to. But actually, if we go in here, we can kind of see what my house used to look like before I had a storage system. There were just chests all over the place. And if we head into the basements, yeah, there are also chests and stuff back here. So that's cool. So it literally is just my house. And again, I did this without Lightmatica, so it was a tough process. Especially considering that it's solid. So this is a lot of netherrack. To this day, if I look at my statistics, where is it? Times mined, netherrack is still up there. This doesn't look like that much netherrack. I mean, not that all that netherrack in my statistics is referring to this, but this definitely did help that get that third place spot. Also, my horse has been chilling here. This is my horse. His name is Throttle. He doesn't do much. Looks like we also have some piglins and stuff wandering around here before he kills us. Also, the placement of the portal is so weird. I don't really know how it happened. I used to enter and exit this place through this portal up here. As you can see, I kind of overworlded this place up here. But then this portal just stopped working, so I had to make another portal down there, and it looks kind of ugly. And like I said, I've kind of stopped caring about maintaining this place and making it look good. So there's kind of explosion holes and stuff from gas that are all around the place. I wouldn't worry about it if I were you. Okay, Nether Island. Entrance into real nether. Let's go to the entrance to real nether. So how do I get from the real nether? Because that was my main portal, and it took me out to the nether roof. Well, if I just head over here to this house. Ooh, here we are. And then here's how we get to the real nether. And this is a perfect segue into my... Sorry, I bumped my mic. Into my fortress farm. This is a fortress farm by Nembon. This is probably the biggest project I've ever done regarding a farm in this world. Let me tell you, it was a nightmare. I also did this without Lightmatica, and I wasn't used to building large-scale farms, so it was I didn't have a very good time building this, especially considering this was made out of leaves, and I did the spawn proofing afterwards. So there are lots of the fire boys all around here. If you heard that, that was my chair. That wasn't me. There were lots of the blazes around that would set the leaves on fire, and oh my gosh, it was just such a nightmare. But then eventually I got everything spawn proofed, and I did a semi-okay job. If I turn on light level overlay, you're going to see all sorts of spots where I kind of missed areas all over the place. like here and here. And trust me, there's a lot more than what it seems. So this farm doesn't actually work for too long without me like unloading the area, because eventually mobs kind of just like pile up in all these spawnable areas. But it sure does get the job done. You don't really need a million beacons unless you're using them as a building block. So I think you can, you don't really have to spawn proof that well. So that was definitely a big step up. That was when I turned from a boy into a man. I'm a big, strong man now, but you already knew that. So I guess there's not really too much to see in the Nether besides the farms. So let me show you some, some farms. So, okay. Of course you're going to build a gold farm in the Nether. So here is an Il Mango gold farm, which I destroyed. This is an excellent farm, by the way. Or at least it was before 1.16, when 1.16 kind of ruined it. And now I think 1.18 is going to just like completely finish it off further and make it so you can't use piglins. Like, but this whole thing is a XP/gold farm, and it uses a mechanic where if a piglin is killed while it's aggroed on you and angry, no matter how it dies, it's still gonna think that it was a player kill, meaning that you get XP and gold blocks and gold swords and stuff like that. But this kind of died after this. Well, this exact design didn't really work very well because piglins exist. And they'll spawn in and just ruin your day. So, when I decided to build this Nembong gold farm, which is designed for 1.16. This thing is excellent. I use it as my main XP farm and my main gold farm, and it makes way more than enough. It's awesome farm. I couldn't recommend it enough. However, down here we have a little piglin trading system, which I'm 100% positive it's way more complicated than it needs to be, but I can't really pinpoint exactly how. So I designed this myself. Basically, this is a 32 piglin system that I designed on my own with the help of some friends of mine. Basically how it works is in these chests, you'll put a bunch of gold bars in it, and then those should somewhat evenly distribute out into these droppers here, and then this etho clock here will give them a gold bar every couple seconds. Basically, like as soon as they throw out the item that they just barred it to you, they get a new bar. I keep saying bar, ingots. Sorry, I don't usually call them bars. I don't know why I'm saying that. And then they're standing on a carpet, which is on top of a hopper, which then goes into this dropper, which then gets auto dropped out into this cobweb, which would align it. And then this is the unnecessary part. It gets dropped onto one of these ender chests, which don't need to be here, and then get pushed out here. So like I said, it could have just dropped it right onto here, but it's just kind of like what happened because of one stage in the development process. Eventually it did need to get stand here and then get pushed out. And then this is where it gets really exciting. This flying machine this block connected to the flying machine will push these items all the way over down here, and then just get bopped around in circles and get sorted in this big sorting system. And but then you don't want all the items that are still on here to get dragged back the other way. I could have just put another sorting system on this side, but instead all of these pistons come down so that it passes over top of all the items, and then it gets pushed out back towards it. I hope I explained that well enough. Basically, all you need to know is big piglin sorting system, or piglin bartering system. Funny enough, I don't think that this thing actually works. I use it. This is like how I get my quartz and stuff like this. And I haven't really run the numbers, but it seems suspiciously slow. So I'm not actually sure if this thing is working up to its fullest potential. But I don't really care, and I don't want to use anything more because I just think it looks cool. I think that's a pretty good reason. Back to the script. What do they want me to look at now? Gold farm, piglin barterer, mob switch. Oh, of course. The mob switch. All right. As we're moving farther away from home, I'm like having a harder time explaining everything. Okay. So here, let me explain a little bit of mob switch science. Not that I'm an expert on this, of course, I'm just repeating what I've been told. The whole concept of a mob switch, at least in 1.16, is that you're going to want to use zombie villagers that you traded with when they were actually villagers. And you want to take 90 or so of them, like a little bit over 70 of them, and then put them all in one space and keep those in a loaded chunk. So the obvious solution is to put those in the spawn chunks, so that when you're off doing your business, the spawn chunks are always loaded, keeping the mob cap up. If you want to learn more about mob caps, I would recommend you do your own research, because I'm about to leave out a whole bunch of crucial information. Those spawn chunks will keep it loaded, so even when you leave the game and come back and stuff like that, they'll automatically get loaded again, and then you're good, you know? At that point, all you really have to worry about is getting the mobs in there. But I live like right next to the spawn chunks, so I wouldn't realistically really want to put my mob switch in the spawn chunks, because since the spawn chunks are loaded regardless, even if I were to do what mob switches usually do and take those mobs and move them out of the spawn chunks, usually they push them over a chunk border, which pushes them into the spawn chunks and out of the spawn chunks. If I push them out of the spawn chunks, they're still going to be loaded for me, because all edges of the spawn chunks are just so close to where I live. So I wouldn't actually be able to turn the spawn chunks off. And that's actually right where my mob farm is, so that mob farm would just never even work anymore. So, okay, what I had to do is the other solution, which is to put the mobs wherever you want and have a chunk loader, which is what I did. And that works just fine, you know? You put the mobs there, you turn on the chunk loader, and then you leave, and then that chunk is loaded, and then your mob switch is working. You're getting no more mobs. But then your problem is when you unload the world, or you know, leave the world and come back, you just unloaded not just the mobs but the chunk loader itself, so the chunk loader stops working. So in order to, basically the solution to get this to work is to use a line of chunk loaders which connects your spawn chunks to the destination. So that's what all of these things stuff are. So I hope that all made sense to you. If it didn't, I would recommend doing a little bit of research into chunk loading and mob switches and stuff like that. And then it should clear everything up. But basically, the spawn chunks are always loaded. And even when if you're outside the spawn chunks and then you leave the world and come back in, then it's going to reload the spawn chunks regardless of where you are. But it won't do that to chunk loaders. So you kind of want to have to kickstart that chunk loader. And the way you do that is by taking the spawn chunks over here and just kind of linking them with like a chain over with multiple chunk loaders over to where the location of the mobs are. Oh no. Crisis averted. So that's basically what I did. So in the overworld, if we go to the very edge of the spawn chunks, you'll see that there's one chunk loader there, and then about 8 chunks away, there's another chunk loader, and then that repeats 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more times, or I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, until it reaches its final destination. And the way I turn on, and I'll show you those mobs in a little bit. I have a funny anecdote to share about them once we get there. The way that I turn off the mob switch is not by sliding the mobs in and out of the loaded chunks. I just turn off all the chunk loaders at once, which is what this stupid looking machine is. And I figured a mob switch is like a pretty big deal. I didn't want to use a boring old lever to activate and deactivate it. So to make it a little bit more fancy, what we have here is a devilish mumbo house. And this is the remaining map that I was talking about. So basically, I don't really want to use this right now. What the heck? So right now, if I it's thumbs up, so that means that the mob switch is on. When I flip it upside down, then all of the chunk loaders are now off, and they're not loading anymore. So if I head back into the overworld, which I may as well do to demonstrate, you're going to see that my mob cap is not at 90. It should jump right back down. Yep, there it is. So that means if we take a peek down there, maybe turn on hitboxes, you can see that there definitely are mobs spawning down there, especially since it's nighttime. You want to be looking at that first number there on the tab list, by the way. I never really clarified that. But then if we go back in here, turn that back to a thumbs up. You may have heard the pistons fire at that point. Run back in here, and it should jump all the way back up to 90. It's going to be really humiliating if it doesn't. There we go. It's a little bit over. You saw that there were 20 mobs when it jumped up, so that's 90 plus the 20 that were already loaded. So that's the remaining map art. So I made a whole map art for that, which was super easy. I just used lots of carpet. That's the mob switch. Here, the end. All right, time to show you the end. So, of course, the Nether is really just a place that I use to travel to far places. So we're gonna head over to the end Nether portal. Let me grab some more rockets. I decided to do a little fancy thing for the end room. So here I decorated this the portal room here. So if we look down there, along with some string and some tripwires and some dispensers down there, there's the end portal and this like hole down here. And I'm really happy. When it's daytime, it kind of looks like there's sun rays peeking in. So we're just gonna hop down. And I may be thinking, but doesn't the fall damage from the overworld when you jump into a portal carry on into the end? It does. That's why these tripwires and dispensers are here. Pretty happy with that. This is where I do all my sand duping. So, basically, the end doesn't have a whole lot to show for now, besides a bunch of sand down here. That's from an old abandoned project. By the way, I have beaten the dragon all 20 times, so we do have all the the gateway portals. Some people may say that the end is it's like a huge empty canvas to build something really big and really spectacular in here, or just to have as like a space to work, you know, because it's mostly void and you could just like wander out into the void and then you just have nothing. It's very good, pretty much like nothing to lag out your game, stuff like that. Those who are really daring might even destroy the whole end island along with the pillars to provide this space to build something really spectacular. And I would totally love to do that, but I am stuck between this being a space to build something really spectacular and this being a space for pure utility, which other people might say that the end is that. I mean, especially because the end this place is so useful for duplicating sand and also duplicating, or not duplicating sand, but I also use it to farm obsidian, where you just stand here and send an item through every now and then and break these 5 obsidian blocks, and then it becomes a fully functional obsidian farm. And there's also Enderman farms and stuff like that. Sometimes achievements make it so I have to keep resummoning the dragon. So I really wouldn't want to chop down all of these pillars, because that would take a stupid amount of time. So because if you don't know, if you break down these pillars and then resummon the dragon, they all come back. So I don't want to risk there being an update down the line where I would have to resummon the dragon and then chop down all these pillars again. But I do think it would be cool if I destroy all the end island around it. So I don't really have a concrete plan right now for a big mega project to do in here. But rest assured, this island probably isn't going to be here for much longer. Because it's still going to be a pretty good way of clearing out this place for... What am I trying to say? Whatever I build in here, if I take out the end island, I can incorporate these pillars into that and hopefully build something that the dragon won't tear up too much. Or regardless, I just think it might be just neat to fight the dragon in the middle of Void. So those are my plans. But I do actually... Let me look at the script. Yeah. Not much to show for now. Now it's time to move elsewhere. What does that mean? Oh yeah, but I guess the script wanted me to say, yeah, there's not much going on here, goodbye. But there actually is a few things over here which the producers forgot about. Which, I kind of used this area over here to build some farms. So it started off with this bee farm, which a lot of people say that you should build bee farms in the end because there's no day and night cycles, and that's how you get the top amount of rates for your honey. So we got honeycomb over here and honey bottles over here. And then eventually, I just started building more things. Pretty much every single farm you see here, actually, is my own design. So this is kind of where I make self-designed bone meal-based farms. Mostly bone meal-based farms. So here we actually have one bone meal-based farm, which makes nether wood. So let me try to explain this design because I'm actually really happy with it. Basically, if you wander around the tree farming scene in the technical side of Minecraft, you probably noticed that excuse me, that tree farming and farming wood was changed a little bit when 1.16 came out, because usually the player would have to manually place down saplings in order for tree farms to work. But since you can bone meal nylium, and there's a chance that it might make a mushroom out of that, and you could bone meal that mushroom and turn it into wood, you can make these either not player dependent, so you could just like turn it on and let it run, or even completely self-sustainable, so that it takes all the warp blocks and shroomlights and stuff like that, throws them into composters, and then fuels itself back up with bone meal, so that all you have to do is turn on a lever and then it could just run forever. I'm not smart enough to do something like that, so this one actually, unfortunately, isn't self-sustainable. But it isn't player dependent. So this lever over here, once you just flip that, then it starts making it. So we have a line of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 nylium. And we have some dispensers down here, which I'll bone meal them, and then basically it just goes through a huge cycle of bone mealing this nylium, bone mealing whatever block is on top of it. Hopefully you got a few mushrooms on at least one of those 8 blocks, and then it pushes them all up and over, and then this big block of wood just emerges out of here. I blow it up with TNT, and it's a pretty decent farm for nether wood. I really just use it for when I need nether logs and nether wood as a building block, and not so much just as my main way of getting wood. Here is a farm that I made, which actually might still have some bone meal in it, so I might be able to demonstrate it. Yeah. If I turn this on, it basically makes moss carpets and azalea bushes. Moss carpets are going to be a really, really helpful thing in the future because they're just such a unique block, especially for hiding lighting and stuff like that, so you kind of just need to make a farm for it. And then similarly, after that, I realized that that's not going to cut it. I need to also make a whole moss block farm. So I don't want to run this farm because I don't know what's going to happen if I run it without there being enough bone meal in it. But this basically just generates a whole bunch of stone, converts that into moss, and then then more stone comes out and pushes that moss out of the way, and then flushes all those moss blocks into these chests. And it also makes a fair amount of moss carpets and stuff that happens on top of it. Again, I designed that myself. Huge amount of inspiration from Ilmango though. He made a farm a million times better than that, so if you're interested in that, look up Ilmango's versions of those farms. A big project that I'm about to get started on required me to get quite a few shulker, quite a lot of shulker boxes of leaves. So this is my design for a oak leaf farm. You'd be surprised. There's actually not a whole lot of designs for fully automatic, super fast leaf farms. There's one outrageous design for birch leaves, but I'll let you check that out on your own. But basically, this design I would have a hoe in one hand and saplings in the other. And I would just go around in a circle. I would place down a sapling there, and then it would bone meal it and grow a tree, and then all of these leaves would go. I'm not going to dive deep into how this farm works, but I just thought it was hilarious. And then it like pushes this bottom log out of the way and bombs it, and those logs just kind of like fall out of the world. And you have to load it up with saplings and whatnot. A big hurdle that I had to overcome when thinking about how to make a leaf farm is I kept thinking about like making all the sapling return, which is a big thing in farming trees. Is when you're making a standard tree farm, you have to make sure that you're also not just making wood, but making enough saplings that get funneled back to the player, so that they can keep placing them and not have to worry about that. But then I kind of just decided, screw it. I just basically gave a sapling input, so you would go off and use a separate tree farm to get a bunch of saplings, and then throw those saplings into here, and then use those to generate the leaves. And then here we have that same project that made me have to get all those leaves, which I'm going to show you this project later. It's kind of going to be the grand finale. That same project also called for me to basically smelt 75 shulker boxes worth of cobblestone into stone. And then another 100 shulker boxes of cobblestone into stone. And then those same 100 shulker boxes from stone into smooth stone. So I decided to build 5 of these super smelters for that. Now this is actually the super smelter. Dang, gat it. I forgot to show you my smelting system back at home. I'll touch that as we're heading over into other places when we leave the end. But basically, I have this same design. I'm sorry, I don't know who made the super smelter, but it's an excellent super smelter. I just love it because it doesn't have a fuel input. You just throw items into here, and then it actually duplicates carpet. Which then fuels the furnaces. So I didn't really want to have to worry about fuel. I could have made a way faster and more efficient super smelter if I really, really wanted to, but instead I just decided to make 5 of these super simple ones. And it definitely helps speed up the process a whole lot. So now if I need mass smelting done, I have 5 super smelters here to do that for me. And that's pretty much all there is to see in the end. Sorry about my rocket consumption. If we follow this bridge over here, there might be like one final little thing to see, which might make you a little bit happy. Of course, we're going all the way out into the outer end islands. Lots of silence and stuff. I'm not used to having to keep up with making commentary when things get slow. Oh look, here come the islands. Now I can talk about how there's islands here. So I just made this really long bridge out here, and you probably guessed what kind of farm this leads to. Oh, sorry, this leads to so far. Just a good old wither rose farm. Nothing special, nothing too fancy. I'm sorry. I really wanted to make sure I credited everybody, every farm and every build. Everybody that made every farm and everything that I didn't make by myself. I don't know who made this design for Wither Rose Farm, but I will get on that and I'll make sure to credit them. Because it's an excellent design. I love it. And that's where I get my Wither Roses, because I couldn't be bothered to make a squid farm. Squid farms are just way too hard to make for black dye. It might sound like, oh, if you want black dye, should you make a squid farm or a wither rose farm? Some people might think it's like a no-brainer to make a squid farm because that just like sounds simpler. But squid farms are deceptively difficult to make. And wither roses are just better because the only other use that ink sacs have besides black dye is for book and quills. Although I do make quite a lot of those. The wither roses, the use that wither roses have outside of black dye is way more useful than just book and quills. So unless you're making tons and tons of books and quills, then you should just go for a wither rose farm. And if you need a book and quill, you could just find a river and kill some squigs. Let me show you that smelting system. I'm not actually gonna smelt anything in them. Well, actually, no, I'll smelt something for you guys since you're behaving so well. Let me grab 1, 2, 3 stacks of cactus and let's smelt this cactus. You may have noticed this island and was wondering, why isn't he talking about it? Here's my super smelter. Right? It's a furnace. You don't need anything more than one furnace. This is totally a furnace. But this is a magic furnace. So this single furnace is actually capable of smelting things super fast. So I'm just gonna throw in my cactus into it. Yep. And set it off. And give it like a few seconds, like 10 seconds or so, for it to smelt up. 3 stacks is no simple task to smelt that all super fast. But I can always rely on my magic super furnace to do it all for me. And hopefully he should be giving me my cactus green very soon. I should start seeing the cactus green appear in my hand as I stand on this inconspicuous birch trapdoor. Oh, look at that. So these are actually just retextured paintings with a carpet, if you didn't notice. And what happens is I just throw some things into here, and then there's just a little trap or fence gate, and they kind of just fall right here. And then once I press this button, then a piston moves this block out of the way, and then they fall all the way straight down here, and hopefully it doesn't get bonked by anything on its way down. And then falls down onto this thing, this minecart hopper, which then gets sucked up by these minecart hoppers. So the actual design has a double chest here. I just replaced that with a lot of minecart hoppers. There's a lot of them right here. I think about as many of them. There's about like 3 shulker boxes worth of like space within all of these hoppers. So this smelting system basically can take 2 shulker boxes at one time. So I could throw 2 shulker boxes of sand into here, and I'll get back 2 shulker boxes of glass relatively quickly. And there's just this big hole in here, and it just and it smelts everything up. And I just think it looks really funny. They kind of just like fly over here, and then they go up this tube, and then get funneled into here, and then bubble columns all the way back up right here. So it's just a goofy way. I think it's a lot prettier than having a huge smelting system up floating in the sky up here with me. Alrighty. Well, let me take a look at the script. Time to go to my desert. Actually, real quick. I'm gonna use some XP bottles to repair my elytra. Marvelous. Yeah, it's definitely a lot framey over here in this area. A lot framier in this area than it is in pretty much every other part of the world. Alrighty, so time to just hit some other locations that are all around my world. Just other places that are important and I usually return back to, usually just like to do chores and utility and stuff like that. So first stop over here is this portal right here, which leads over to, well, okay, so of course, when you first generate a world, you want to make sure you have easy access to like a swamp so you could get slimes early on, and a jungle so you can get cocoa beans and stuff like that, a desert so you can get sand and cactus when you need it. So I marked this area a very, very long time ago, and I've always been coming back here just to tear up the landscape. So this used to be where I got all of my sand and all of my dirt, as you can see. And this is also where I've been doing a lot of like moss stuff. So this is an area that I've actually just gotten really fond of over the years, over the year and a half, and where I go to just do things, I guess. Simply put, one of those things involves making the maps. So here is the Just Monica map, the one that I made without Light Monica. So funny thing, if you take a white block, like wool, like white wool or snow down there, they're both the same shade of white on maps. If you staircase them, this is the north, if you staircase them downwards, then they appear brighter. If you make it flat, then it's a little bit darker. And if you staircase it the other way, then it's almost gray. So if you actually want like a really bright white color, like I needed, because the middle of it was actually going to be gray, like just a little bit grayer than white. So I used flat white blocks here for the white color. And then I wanted all the other white around it to contrast with that, so I had to staircase it downwards to make it a really bright white in comparison to this. So even though the white wool and the snow make the same type of white, based on the staircasing of it, based on the staircasing, it creates a different shade of that color, and that applies to every single color on the maps. So really advanced maps have just like look like these crazy structures because they're all staircases and stuff to utilize all sorts of colors besides just the single colors. Of course, it's a lot easier to make things flat, so pretty much every map I made has been flat. Pardon that interruption. Carrying right along to show you, this was the second map I made, as I said earlier. It's the 40 ounces to freedom map, and it did take about as long as it looked. So these things, some maps look a lot prettier in person than others, but they almost certainly are going to look better in map form than in real human physical form, because there's lots of height variation, because the maps perceive these carpets as being on the same level as these blocks here. And of course I could have used gold blocks, but why would I do that when I could just go the cheap route and use the gold pressure plates? So, and you know, gold pressure plates aren't the nicest thing to look at when they're all next to one another. So yeah, this is just a whole lot of white carpet, a lot of gold pressure plates, and a lot of time and a lot of pain. Here we have the little animation one. This is a very easy and quick one to do. I don't know why I didn't go for a solid color background. I like in hindsight, I remember like thinking like, no, I don't want to do a solid color background. Well, it originally was when I put it into a program, it was like a solid yellow, but then it came out with like this pattern to like kind of, so like when you stand back, it kind of merges into one type of yellow. But I was just like, so I don't know. I just rolled with it. It's not the smartest thing I've ever done, obviously. I think it's probably just because I wanted a little bit more of a challenge. It sounds kind of conceited. I don't know. We'll just say it's because I was being dumb. But it still turned out really great. It was kind of hard because it's like on the scale of one quarter of a map. And like a map in itself is already 128 by 128 pixels. That's not all that much. So when you're bumping that down to a quarter, it's really hard to get like certain details, like Megumin's eyes and stuff like that, into these maps. So it was definitely it's the hardest part about making these animation maps is finding out what kind of like looping GIF will fit into will like still look the same when at a 64 by 64 pixel scale, and like the animation is also simple enough to only work with 4 frames. So since this particular image was 4 poses, like looking at the cat that she's holding, top right, top left, bottom right, bottom left. So it kind of just worked out, but other things don't usually work out all that well. Here we have the portrait of my house, and since you've seen it from more angles, it might look a little bit more familiar. Here we have the frizzle fry. So this is a very prime example of things just like not looking good. Because funny enough, TNT is like a pretty big block here. There's lots of TNT here. Don't light it, please. TNT on a map is shown as being a very, very bright red. Like the reddest red. It's shown as being like the same color. The color that TNT has on a map is also shared by lava, fire, and redstone blocks. So take that as you will. So it looks kind of kooky, especially with the pinks and stuff like that in a physical form. But then on a map it looks great. It ends up looking good. I actually might have okay, I don't have any empty maps here to give you a side by side, unfortunately. And then the most boring one is just the thumbs up and thumbs down. This is purely made out of carpet. And I don't have a problem with duplicating carpet when using it for large scale builds right now. Because, you know, I set the precedent for that. I said, when I started to dive into technical stuff, I told myself that carpet duplication is a-okay with me. So if it's not with you, that's fine. I could go on about that forever. Yeah, there's not a whole lot more that goes on in this place anymore, since I'm not usually digging up dirt and stuff like that. Oh, you know what? I actually missed, speaking of which, I missed a few farms in the nether. I missed one big crucial farm in the nether. But anyway, desert with maps, snow place with ice farm. Alright, you want to see the... Okay, so we're going to head towards my... Well, actually, you know what? I was about to take you to a snowy area where my ice farm is held, but honestly, it's a very boring area. It's just a place that's super far away and it will take a long time to get to. And it basically just imagine a tundra with an ice farm. And it's an ice farm it's an ice farm designed by Il Mango. I don't know how I can direct you towards it. But it's basically a design that uses like Frostwalker, armor stance, and whatnot. but I don't think it's worth wasting the time to go over there and check it out because it's not really all that exciting. We're not going to see it in action or anything. But remember I had that project where I had to get a lot of leaves and a lot of stone and a lot of smooth stone? Well, that same project called for 100 shulker boxes of dirt. Dirt isn't exactly renewable, kind of like how sand isn't. But you can't just dupe dirt like sand. And it kind of sounds ridiculous that like, oh no, I so desperately need an automatic dirt farm. It sounds ridiculous because you could just dig it up. But when you need 100 shulker boxes of dirt, it's not really all that fun to just go out with a shovel all day and just shovel up all sorts of dirt. So although this may have been a little bit slower, dirt, although isn't, if you ask most people, they're going to say, no, it's not renewable. It technically is, where if you take 2 dirt, combine it with 2 gravel, you'll get 4 coarse dirt, which you can use a hoe on, or nowadays in 1.17 you can use a shovel on to turn it back into dirt. So this machine basically, what I would do is I would load up, oh sorry about all the minecarts too. I would load up lots and lots of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 shulker boxes worth of coarse dirt into these chests. I would stand here, anger the piglins so that I get a passive income of XP, like that. And I would sit here with my hoe or my shovel, and I would put coarse dirt in my offhand, and I would look right here and use a super fast clicking script, courtesy of Tweakaroo, and just hold right click. And what it will do is it will place a dirt block, then till it, and then place another dirt block, then till it, then place another dirt block, then till it, and over again, and basically convert it into dirt as soon as I place it, push it over, condense it into a block, and then blow it up, and then go into that super stupid looking collection system down there. And over time, I slowly got all 100 shulker boxes, but it took a long time, but in my opinion, it was a lot more fun and easy than just taking a shovel to some land. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. According to the script, our next stop is the sand duper, which is also pretty uninteresting. But after that, it's time to show you my witch farm. So I'm going to make a quick stop real quick. Basically, to briefly explain this to you, when you're making a witch farm, you're probably not going to want to just use a single witch hut, although it works. If you have the opportunity to get a double or even a triple witch hut, but usually if you're just generating a random world, you're going to get a double witch hut. You're not going to be able to find a triple witch hut for thousands or maybe millions of blocks. So basically what I'm trying to say is, for a while I had a single witch hut farm, which kind of just broke on me, and I can't really explain to you why. Very weird, very weird. It just kind of stopped working. So once I decided to make a new witch farm, I tried to find myself a double witch hut, and for some reason I couldn't find one within a reasonable distance. The closest double witch hut, meaning 2 witch huts close enough to each other so that the player can have them both loaded at the same time. And usually the highest it goes is quad witch huts. So if you want to, you can look up seeds. I highly encourage this. If you're generating a new Minecraft world, I highly recommend looking at seeds with quad witch huts, which have 4 witch huts all close enough together, so you could basically get 4 times the rate of redstone generation from witches. But if you want to go for a random seed, which is totally okay too, you're probably just going to want to settle for a double witch hut, or maybe if you're incredibly lucky, a triple. The closest double witch hut that I could find to me was 30,000 blocks away. So I'm gonna I don't want to have to make the journey all the way back, so I'm just gonna set up this machine and hope that it works. There we go. Okay, I'm glad that we were able to demonstrate this. So you can see that the gravel is not falling, which keeps this open So I'm going to chuck my ender pearl down there and turn on this chunk loader. If we come down here, you can see that there's going to be this minecart going back and forth. So we're ready to roll. So I have set up a piston bolt that takes us about 4,500 blocks out in the nether to the location of the witch farm. And I think I have some minecarts here. I have this one railing iceway here, and then also this piston bolt here, which takes me out. I'm going to use the piston bolt because sometimes piston bolts are a little bit better than iceways. Even though they're significantly slower, they're hands-free, which always makes it easier. So I'm just going to hop here, and I'm going to press this button, and I will be right back and come back to you guys when we're over there. Should only take around 3 minutes. Welcome back. That took a lot longer than I expected. But over here at the end, we can see the machines that helped me build the piston bolts, because there's Ilmego designed some wonderful flying machines quite a few years ago, which does the rail curving and the block placing basically just for you. Then you have to do all the repeaters and all that junk on your own. But over here we have the double witch hut. So here we have 2 witch farms. These are powered by Zoglins, which is pretty neat. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show you them working in action because I have the mob switch on. But that's pretty cool. Man, that was a long piston bolt. So I just had to light up this area and light up all the caves beneath it to make this a really well-functioning witch farm. And this gets me pretty much like all the redstone I need. You know, not like a crazy stupid amount, but enough to hold me over until I come across some projects where I need like way a lot of redstone, and then I just need to AFK here for multiple days. But I didn't take you out to the witch farm, and the ice farm, because I said it was way too far away and uninteresting. So why'd I take you even farther all the way out here to show you these witch farms? Well, actually, this area does carry some amount of significance to the world, because I don't really want to bother and figure out which direction I can go in is going to be the quickest to generate new land. This is a 10 gigabyte world file. I've gone in all 4 directions from my world pretty far. So getting to new chunks when a new update comes out that introduces new terrain generation is no easy task. But fortunately, in this witch farm area, I haven't explored out any of this area. I've done lots of work within this immediate area, but everything else around it, I haven't really checked out. So this is the perfect place for me to go, since I have a piston bolt set up and the ender porter thing ready to take me back. This is just the perfect place to go and generate new chunks. So this direction over here, this is towards home. So this way, this is the direction I go to generate 1.17 land. This way, which is farther away from home, this is the direction that I'm going to go when 1.18 comes out to check out the new cliffs and stuff like that. I'm probably not going to have to go that direction very much though, because it's really only going to be to just look at the new caves and look at the new cliffs and kind of marvel at them. There's not really going to be any new blocks there because they already introduced them in this update. So let's go out here. So, and not very long at all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly up a fair amount and get myself to a nice cruising altitude. And you can see me just flying through the air. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to free cam down into the ground where we can see there are geodes and there's deep slate and all that fun stuff. So we're in the new chunks. So I've done quite a lot of mining in this area, especially for copper. I'm not really too interested in the deep slate right about now. I'm not incredibly interested in the amethyst geodes and stuff like that, especially since Mojang kind of screwed over players that generated worlds way before 1.17, because like nobody's gonna actually have a geode loaded within their immediate area, and I'm not gonna come all the way out here to AFK at a geode for a little bit and be like, oh boy, has 5 hours passed, and then mine all the grown geodes and whatnot. Definitely not. So I'm probably not going to have too many geodes or amethyst in my world, but I think that that primary use is tinted glass, and I don't really need too much of that right now. But what I would like is that sweet copper block, because that's going to be excellent for my steampunk area, right? And just because I think that the copper is a really nice block. So I did some mining And let me tell you, copper is pretty hard to get. Considering that you need 9 of them to craft a block, that just kind of seems ridiculous to me. I understand why Mojang did it though, but it definitely is hard to get copper in super large amounts. So what I decided to do, instead of strip mining like a pleb, I decided to make a tunnel bore. So usually people make these for diamonds. So they'll make them all the way down around like Y11, Y12 to expose all those like diamond areas and stuff like that. But I'm in it for the copper because I'm a normal person. So this is actually at Y20 because it seems like that was the proper height that I can make this at to maximize the amount of copper I get while minimizing the amount of times I run into oceans, because deep oceans go around to like Y30. This is about 10 blocks tall, so like Y20 just barely grazes past the deepest parts of some deep oceans. So I don't hit deep oceans too often, but you know, every now and then I do, but usually when I do, it's not a big deal. But then of course there's flooded caves and underwater ravines and all that stuff that you can't really avoid very easily, even if you do make it super low. So that's made it way harder for me to use this because I keep hitting those and it's just not a fun time to drain out all the caves. But for a very long time I was in the snowy tundra biome, as you can see right here. Snowy mountains, frozen river. I'm staying in these cold biomes, and those cold biomes don't have a whole lot of water near them. And then I went into a lukewarm ocean, and then that's when I started running into these flooded caves, where you could see actually I even set up a portal there because I had to spend all sorts of time draining out these caves. And you can see if I free cam up here, I had to cap off this ravine. So this is like the very bottom of a deep, not a deep ocean, or no, this is a deep lukewarm ocean. So once I got done draining that out, I thought, oh boy, I sure am glad I'm done with that. So I kept tunnel boring along. And then eventually I hit another one, as you can see. It's just not fun hitting them. And then that leads us to where we are now, where I'm kind of face to face with another big flooded cave system. And it seems like this ocean goes on for a pretty decent amount. So it's probably going to be a pretty sizable amount of time before I hit a landmass similar to that tundra. But so what I ended up doing was you saw about how far I had run this thing, so pretty far, and I had profited about 3 shulker boxes worth of copper ore from that, so pretty good. And then once you fortune that becomes a lot more, so about 12 shulker boxes of raw copper, and then that really big stack of shulker boxes near the little palm tree at my home island that you may recall seeing, that's full of raw copper. And I was actually just about to smelt that down in that new sorry about all my mumbling and stumbling, that new quintuple super smelter. But yeah, this thing works. I wish I could show you it working in action, but I don't want to. It can't destroy the blocks that are behind this water, so eventually it might just start blowing itself up if I keep running it without draining out all this water. So instead you could just marvel at it. It's about 100 blocks long. That's a pretty standard length. You got to just make sure that you keep the whole thing loaded. And yeah, I highly recommend, if you need lots and lots of copper. Well, actually, Nembon and other smart heads out there have been making all sorts of highly efficient copper farms using reinforcements and whatnot. So if you want lots of copper, do that. I did this way before that was even like an option that people knew about. But the standard design that Nembon released on his channel for fun farms still technically was a tad bit slower than using this thing. But his farms have a very big advantage to them, and that being that you could just like AFK them and leave it all night, leaving your sword swinging all night, and then you can that's basically just 8 hours of runtime right there. While running this thing for 8 hours means that you have to have no life and sitting here with tons of G fuel and keeping your eyes open for all the copper ore you see. But it's definitely good for diamonds. Totally recommend it. Awesome machine. My credit goes to Il Mango. I got that design. Inspiration from Doc M77 of the Hermitcraft server, because I was brainstorming with a friend of mine, and while walking around the Hermitcraft 7 world download, and we thought, oh, we could use this for copper. And I went ahead, and it was pretty profitable. All right, and on the script it says the tunnel bore. All right, well, folks, well, it looks like we're starting to run out of time and are running out of things to show you. So I guess I can demonstrate that ender porter. So if I leave the world right here and then hop back on into the world, bam, all the way back. And you can see if I immediately log back in, my mob caps don't immediately start out as 90, because that chain reaction where my spawn chunks are loading in that chain of chunk loaders is still happening right now. And then eventually, and maybe like 1 minute tops, that final chunk loader will kick in, and there it is, and then the mob switch is activated. Before we show you the grand finale, I'll go around and show you a few little things over here. So if I head on over here, you can see the chunk loaders as I move towards it. This is the location of my old witch farm that I tore down, and then I used this space to put the mob switch, which is a pretty ugly system. My design for this, like I said, the way that I turn this on and off is by unloading all of those chunk loaders at once. But I had an alternate way of doing it where I had a lever here which would push these cells. There used to be 4 cells. There's now 5 cells of these guys. There used to be 4 cells of 24 of them, leading to a grand total of 96 of them. And then 6 of those guys ended up holding some kind of item, which made them not contribute to the mob cap anymore. So only 90 of the 96 of them were actually contributing to the mob cap, which was still way more than enough. But as you can see, they were on honey blocks, which were connected to pistons, which is on a chunk border. If I free cam, you can see that these guys right here are right next to this chunk border. So I had an alternate way of turning it off, where I would push them all forward and onto the other side, and that would also work just fine too. So if I was showing this off to somebody and I wanted to demonstrate me turning on and off a mob switch like how you would expect somebody to do it by moving them over, this was my design of doing it, where they were on honey blocks, and 99% of the time it works fine. I was showing it off to a friend of mine, and I said out loud as I was about to pull the lever again, I said, gosh, guys, every time I pull this lever, I get so worried that a bunch of them are just going to spew out. I pulled the lever, and then that's exactly what happened. It was like scripted. It was like I was in an episode of Seinfeld. Like, seriously. It was just absolutely ridiculous. It was so funny, but so painful at the same time. So now I have a big obsidian box around them, because I'm not letting that happen again. Because sitting here waiting for these guys to just make babies and just convert them, although it's a very easy process, it wasn't something I was looking forward to ever doing again. But I had to do it again. I lost about, gosh, I don't even know. I think I was at about like 65 of them, so I lost maybe like 25 of them. In one pull of a lever, I lost 25 of those zombie villagers, which just wasn't fun. But fortunately enough, putting 24 of them back into a cell did conveniently bring the grand total back up to 90. So the number never changed, so I'm always used to looking at 90 out of 70 up there. I don't know if there's any other little tidbits to show you. You may have noticed, you know what? we have this little crater here because there used to be a big crusty crab in the sky, which I took out because it was kind of an eyesore in the way of everything. But I'm about to rebuild it. And the big crown jewel of that thing was that there was a squid in it named Squidward. And squids, although you can actually use leads on them now in 1.17, I had to bring a squid from the ocean all the way up there, or just like, into that crusty crab building. That was not fun. Squids just do not cooperate with bubble columns. It was such a pain. But here we have this little build. This isn't all that exciting. I might go around and just, if I come across like a little tiny build, I'll give you a little backstory on it. This is just a nice little build that I decided to make. We're on top. We have this nice little campfire with the sitting area. Then if we head down this ladder, we have this layer here, which has an aquarium and all this other prismarine stuff. And a nice little pretty area with fishies and stuff in it. Head down the ladder one more. We have a fireplace area to kind of sit down and read a good book. One of my paintings got ruined with my texture pack. Come down one more. We get a spooky room with a dragon head and anvil and enchanting table and stuff like that. And you could kind of tell what the vibe I was going for is. I don't really know a good word to describe it, but you can tell what I was going for. And then down here we have a nice little serene area where if you look down, you can see like the sand of the ocean floor and stuff like that, or just on the ocean floor with all this coral and stuff like that. And we have this nice little waterfall and these rock formations. I don't really know why I made this. I was just kind of bored one day, but it was a fun project. I'm sure there's some other like little tiny things that don't really have too much of a story to them that I totally missed. Like there's some little builds over here, just like things that you could tell I just did when I was bored. Like there's a phantom and a minecart over here. That's pretty cool. Oh, my apologies. I had my sound down since checking out the dirt farm. Oh, I need more rockets. Unless something comes to me and I can think of one last thing to talk about before we check out this grand finale and wrap everything up. And also after we check out this last thing and my big plans for the biggest project I'm ever going to embark on, I'll talk a little bit about texture packs and client-side mods and stuff like that. Because you probably noticed I have a pretty wacky texture pack on that changes every little thing now. Little things here and there. But I'm just going to take a leisure walk on over to this portal where I'm going to explain something to you. I started playing Minecraft back in 2012, and I started on the Xbox 360. So, pretty long time, not as long compared to other people. Now, if you played Minecraft on the Xbox 360 back in the day, you'll remember that there was actually a tutorial world, which Java Minecraft, or just PC version of Minecraft, they called it back in the day, didn't have. And this world, that tutorial world eventually evolved into other things and eventually had a castle and stuff like that. And I'm sure you can still hop on an Xbox 360 and load up the latest version of the tutorial world, and you should expect to see like a castle and stuff like that. And it's really well made and stuff like that. But the first edition of that tutorial world, which a lot of people remember, has a lot of nostalgia linked to it and very fond memories. Fortunately, some mad lad on Planet Minecraft found a way to get that original tutorial world, probably had some kind of old save on their Xbox 360 and somehow transferred it over onto PC as a world download to it. So if I could provide that world download to the original Minecraft tutorial world, I will do so. And I thought like, oh, dude, I just love this tutorial world so much. It's just such a nice place, such a fun place for me to be. I would love to be able to put this in my world, but it's hard to, like, well, firstly, that's like a ridiculous thing to say in the first place. And secondly, it's kind of hard to build terrain when Minecraft has terrain itself. So I had to get rid of it. So here we have a perimeter. Now, some of you more technical folks out there might be scoffing at the chunky floor that I have left behind. But, and for those of you who are just like in awe with their jaw drops because they had never seen something like this before. This is a perimeter. This is a very common practice in the technical side of Minecraft. SciCraft has a whole bunch of these. And more technical players, it's very common for these to be all over the place. Basically, the general idea is that if you're building a farm and you want it to be very efficient, then you want to just minimize the amount of stuff happening around it. So one way to do that is like, light up caves, get rid of just like laggy blocks like hoppers and chests and stuff like that. Get rid of item frames and paintings and armor stands and stuff like that. And like that's one method of doing it. Say you're trying to like make a mob farm super effective. Mob farms are super good the lower down in the world they are, and they usually need caves around them lit up. But you know what's even less laggy than that is to just get rid of all the land. So the technical community have come up with these huge flying machines called world eaters, which clear out water and clear out land at the same time. And I used one of these. And usually you don't want it to look this bad, especially the floor. You don't want the floor to be all chunky and stuff like that. You would want it to be smooth. And I will acknowledge that, but this is not a technical build. This is going to be a aesthetic build. So so although it is a highly technical thing to do to make a perimeter like this at all, or just make a perimeter at all, it's pretty unprofessional to keep the walls all chunky. I mean, keeping the walls chunky is fine, but keeping the floor chunky usually isn't fine because there's all sorts of spawning spaces down there, and oh no. But I don't care about those spawning spaces because I designed this this build to work with a mob switch, so it's not even going to be well lit up anyway. There's going to be all sorts of mob spawns, but basically this entire area, which is 400 by 400 blocks, will soon have the tutorial world in it. And I'm not going to show you what that looks like in schematic form quite yet. I'm just simply talking through what my plan is, but I do have a schematic of it, and it involved it. There was a really long process that I had to go through where I basically hollowed out the entire world using all sorts of fancy world edit and Lightmatica tricks. So eventually one day I hope to stand on this ledge and peer down and see a big fat piece of nostalgia here. And I had this idea maybe like 4 months ago, and over time I've just been taking the steps to help it come to fruition. And this is where we are now. And right now I'm actually on the resource gathering, as we talked about earlier. So I got my good buddy Notch right here to hold the materials for me. And at that, ladies and gentlemen, I will be right back. And once I'm back, I will start talking about some more technical resource pack stuff. Okay, so I'm actually going to try to be very brief when explaining explaining all this resource pack stuff. So obviously, something that I've had just wearing on my head, and I never really thought to mention, I have a straw hat. And this is actually just a pumpkin. And if I take a carved pumpkin and I rename it Hat with 2 T's, then it turns into a straw hat, which was kind of just a joke. I kind of realized, I mentioned at the very beginning that I had started messing around with modeling, and I realized that with every single one of those, you can customize how that thing sits on your head. And the only Minecraft item that you can just put on your head, just slide up into this bar, or into the slot, is a carved pumpkin. So at one point I had all of my carved pumpkins in the entire world replaced with the straw hat, until very recently when I figured out how to use Optifine to rename it into what it is here. And it started off as a joke, but over time I kind of just realized I really like the look of it. So I've kind of just become the straw hat guy, and I feel so naked without it, like ew. And of course, you probably noticed that my Totem of Undying, if you didn't know, this is a Totem of Undying, retextured to be a Jiggy, which is a reference to Banjo-Kazooie, the same game that the Mumbo skull is from. And here's what I say. I would love to take every single opportunity I can to just kind of make the Minecraft experience a little bit more interesting without the use of like crazy game-changing mods, you know? So although I would love to use things like immersive portals and stuff like that to just make the game a whole lot more interesting, I feel like that's maybe moving a little bit too far away from what Minecraft is at its core. But they give us this option to very easily customize all sorts of things around you. And I don't really want to change the feel of Minecraft as a whole. But if I have the opportunity to make these little tiny changes here and there, like I'm also eating mangoes, which are golden carrots, which is a reference to Il Mango, if you didn't get that. I would just love to take every single opportunity I can. Oh, shoot. God dang. Oh, no. That piglin just like went through the portal, so if I go through the portal, he's gonna murk me. Alright, we're taking a different route home. Like I said, I'd like to just take every single opportunity I can to just make the Minecraft experience just a little bit more interesting. And customizability is the way to do that. Because then it kind of becomes my thing, you know? And I really only use this resource packs that oh, dang it. I really only, sorry about that. I'm just trying to get home. I really only use this resource pack when I'm in my world, and when I play on other worlds and other servers and stuff, then I'll turn it off. Because it's kind of like another way to change the way that my world feels. And also, you probably noticed that I use programmer art as well. And if you couldn't tell by that big, grand perimeter show-off thing, I'm really trying hard to cling on to old school Minecraft. So, although the response for the changed textures in 1.14 was mostly positive, and I love them, I think that they were great changes. I think I'd just rather stick with the old ones because they just make me feel more at home. So, you know, and then there's other textures like this creeper face, which I have as a Corrales face. That I just change around as I so please. Broken elytras look like a monkey. It's just these little goofy things, you know? So I figured if I can change it with a resource pack, then why not? Why not just have a little bit of fun? It's basically like Vanilla Tweaks, except if VanillaTweaks.net was run by like a bunch of 5-year-olds. Which I'm really just a bunch of 5-year-olds in a trench coat. That's why I'm so tall. Well, anyway, I'll end off this world where I started. I know as soon as I stop recording, I'm going to remember one big thing that I forgot to show you. But hopefully you all enjoyed watching. I had a blast. This ended up taking a way longer than I expected to. But this is very positive, and I'll see you in another 10,000 days. So thank you all for tuning in.